You want to go to, we are online. If you want to go to meeting, just go to the website and join us if you'd like to. Let's go with the attendance, starting with Roy.
Roy Bishop, present.
Ted Winglass, present.
Carsten Stuber, present.
Ed Goodwin present, and
Eric Gaspar, present.
great. All right. So, do we have any walk-ins?
Nope.
No? All right. So we are waiting for a 6:05. What do you want to do in the meantime?
Yeah, Woods. Yep. We can go to, let me just move my stuff here. Number 12 on here, it's a request for a certificate of compliance.
All right?
Let me just find my notes. It's for 38 Draper Woods, DEP file number 300-469. This request is to issue a partial COC just to release that one lot, which is part of the Draper Woods subdivision. This lot actually isn't within jurisdiction. It was just encumbered by the original order for the property.
Okay.
So there's no concerns with that. I recommend issuing a partial COC, which would release this property.
All right. Do I have a motion to do that?
With regards to the project at 38 Draper Woods Road, DEP file number 300-469, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a partial certificate of compliance.
All right, do we have a second?
Second that.
All right, Roy seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Okay. All right, so
Right,
that's,
we can also go to number 15, it's a special land use application. This is for the lead mine property from the Rotary Club. This is a request they had last year that was approved. It is a 5K and 1K race and a walk that they're doing on Halloween. It's actually their third annual, the second time that they're using it on our property. It's on OSV's road, and then it goes partially on the lead mine property.
all right.
They estimate 150 people, 80 cars, but all the cars are parked at the OSV parking lot over there. The only thing
Yeah.
they'll be doing is running on the trail,
Yeah, the same as we did last year.
exactly with the same conditions. Yep.
Any discussion on it? All right, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
All right, great. Carson, you want to read this?
In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within the wetland, water body or resource area and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body or resource area in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and Association Regulation, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to the opening, the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within the 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are now at 374 Main Street. We have a request for determination of applicability for a commercial site. Steve Van, is he here? No? And Representative, okay, Steve Rivers.
I'm here.
Okay, all right. All righty.
Steve, do you want me to pull up the plans?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. 1 second.
Yeah, I'll get started while you're pulling that
Okay.
up. So yeah, we're here for 374 Main Street. That's the site of the Burger King. I'm Steve Riverby, by the way, senior ecologist over at Otter Consulting. So the project here at 374 Main is to add a second drive-through kiosk to the existing Burger King facility. Like you see at a lot of other fast food chains, where you kind of have two parallel kiosks next to each other. The entire site is developed. It's completely paved. You know, the structure and the pavement all around it is a small landscape island located in like the southwestern corner by Main Street. That's really the only impervious surface currently on the site. We have riverfront area from Cedar Lake, which projects kind of roughly through that half of the site, with the eastern half not being in riverfront at all. The proposed work is to basically do some pavement cutting, install the second drive-through kiosk, add some landscape islands around there for traffic control, which would provide a minimal, but you know, there'll be a slight decrease in impervious surface, you know, with adding some areas of plantings around to kind of make some traffic islands. You know, no changes to stormwater or anything out there. Any earth that needs to get excavated to do that will be removed from the site. If it needs to be temporarily stockpiled on site, we'll surround it with erosion control just to, you know, stop it from migrating, install catch basin protections so nothing gets into any catch basins out there. Relatively short and simple project. You know, like I said, it's riverfront. It's really no change in the riverfront. That's why we filed this under an RDA. See if we get a determination that way. That's essentially it. It's pretty straightforward. So Anthony Pugsley is here. He's with the construction. He's the superintendent for the construction team that would do the work. So if there's any construction-related questions, he can chime in and answer anything. That's it. I'll turn it back over to you guys if you have any questions.
Becky, you have anything?
I don't have any questions. I don't really have any concerns with it. I think you went over the project, read that in the narrative. It included all the erosion controls. Because it's a minor project, I think we can proceed underneath the determination with a -3. I would definitely still have our standard pre-work and sign-off conditions, inspection of erosion controls, et cetera. And then I would recommend it's a positive 2B. We're not doing a resource area approval here, and then a positive 5 with the same conditions that were noted before.
All right. Anything, Roy?
No, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think it's well needed, so.
Eric, do you have anything?
Anything?
No, I'm good.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion?
Anyone in the
Close the
public
public
have a
hearing.
comment on this project? No? Anyone on the public line have a comment on this project? You're good.
I do. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Here we go.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, we got a couple. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in
Roy
favor?
Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor. With regards to the project at 374 Main Street, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a determination of applicability with a -3 with conditions, a positive 2B with no resource area approval, and a positive number 5 with the conditions already noted above.
I'll second that.
Second that? Okay. Discussion, anyone? Seeing none, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor, and Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
All right, thanks, Steve.
All right, thank you. The record for the fastest meetings. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we are now at 60 Main Street. Notice of intent, commercial parking lot, DEP file number 300. No number.
No file number yet.
Okay. So are we going to continue this or go through it?
Well, we can open and let them present if you like. Yeah.
All right.
And just for the record, we have proof of legal ad, and I see Lenny has the receipts over there. Dominic, grab those. Thank you. So Lenny, you can start. I'll pull this up. Do you want me to zoom in on the existing conditions first?
The what, please?
Do you want me to zoom in on the existing conditions on here?
Yeah, you can have that on, yeah. Okay, basically, this is a commercial site. It's pre-existing, and what we're doing, we're going under the provisions that this is an alteration of an existing site. It doesn't go under all the regulations that are necessary. What it is, because of the nature of the site, we have to go into the best fit possible relative to the site. We took a site visit on the property and showed the parking area that was basically encompassed within the property itself, which was requested that we alter the design and put the vehicles facing the roadway itself and to back out instead of going circumventing within the site itself. What this actually did is it took the paved surface that we were going to use with the original proposal, which was basically 2,100 square feet, and we have now cut it back considerably, basically to a little over 1,000 square feet. So we've cut down the paving surface roughly 50%. The drainage on the property, it was going to go from a catch basin, which was going to be put on the site and going to trenched over to a discharge area on the northwesterly corner of the site. What we've done there is we've changed it to a ditch area itself to be approximately 2 foot wide, 1 foot deep, and running over to a stone bench basin, which is outside of the wetland act that's there. The purpose for that basically is infiltration for the discharge coming from the parking lot, going over to the basin itself. That's number one. Number two, the trench itself is going to be an open trench with stone in it, which will be used for the discharge of any material before it goes into the wetland itself. Also, it'll go filtering through that. It'll take out any of the nutrients that are in the water. The basin itself is going to be a catch basin, which is going to have a oil interceptor in the basin itself. So the drainage from the basin to the discharge point will be free of any oil that will be coming from the parking facility itself. The site is serviced by town water and town sewer, so the site does not require a new leach field or a new water connection, so that will not have to be done. Also, the property is going to be used presently as a beauty salon, which, since its construction, it was used as a single-family residence. And the thing is, but the building itself will not be altered. It's going to stay exactly as same. The only alteration will be a handicap ramp to service handicapped people within the building itself. Outside of that, the building will not change. Exterior lighting outside will be mounted on the exterior portion of the building itself. There will be no outstanding spotlights or anything on the property. Also, the trash pickup will not have a dumpster on it. She said that she'll take the trash from the site to her home site, and she will not be putting in a dumpster on the site itself. The alteration in the front of the building, on the most westerly side, there's an existing curb cut that's there, that's paved. We'll not be utilizing the existing curb cut, mainly for a couple reasons. Number one is the main street itself has been restriped, and consequently, by restriping, you're not allowed to exit Route 131 by backing into the street. So the curb cut, actually, even though it's there, it's moot. It can't be used. There used to be a parking spot on the easterly side, which is adjacent to 131. That has a stone bed in it. We were leaving it as is, but the thing is that also by state regulations cannot be used for a parking facility. So what happened here is we're ending up basically with a total site area of basically 13,000 square feet, and 7,900 square feet of it is basically going to be used on the site itself. So we're going to end up with basically, with the parking and everything, just under 20% coverage. The zoning regulations require that we can go a lot different than that, but we're with the 18%, we're well below the threshold, so we don't have to worry about it. I think that basically that's it for a start, but what it is that I talked to DEP. They have not issued the number as of today. They want, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this plan here, resubmit to DEP for the new alteration, which we're representing here, which is on your board tonight. There was questions that were made in the field relative to occupying vehicle space, where the vehicle space itself is, according to conservation, is called a structure, and that no structures can be put within the 50 feet. So what's going to happen here, they were utilizing the parking on the property, and then the structures that we have within the 50-foot barrier, we're going to request a waiver to take the parking and have it within that 50-foot barrier. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Becky.
Okay, so Lenny did revise his plan based off, a few of us went out and did a site walk out here off some of the comments. Based off of the calculations that he gave us, it looks like it's, a good reduction in impervious surface. He is right, so this would be considered, parking area would be considered a structure, and it would be a new structure within the 50-foot, no new structures. So a waiver would be required, and part of that is looking at all alternatives to minimize those impacts, part of what Lenny's kind of already done, and then to provide a mitigation, a benefit to resource area based off that. So I think they've started to work towards that. As far as DEP is looking for the stormwater checklist, because it went from a residential to a commercial. When you're a commercial property, you're subject to stormwater standards. Lenny's already added some things in there to address that, but we just got to go through the checklist and the analysis for DEP, showing that will be sufficient for meeting all of those standards. So it's just another exercise that has to be done as part of that. Lenny did make some changes to the drainage here. Before it was a pipe that was going to the kind of splash pad basin at the end. We talked in the field about, hey, can that be a stone line swale that can help kind of slow that water down, infiltrate some of it, and get some of the nutrients out of it before it gets to the wetlands, so that's a good improvement. One of the things that I think that could also be a good improvement to work towards that mitigation is that back lawn area. It's lawn right to the edge of the wetland. Probably not going to be using a lawn. One of the things the commission looks for is adding naturally vegetated buffers there. Shrubs and trees would go a long way and let that naturally revegetate there. Any effort to maybe reduce that basin away from the edge of the wetland might be a good thing too, especially with that stone-lined swale. If you could pull that back a little bit, that might be a benefit instead of having it discharge right at the edge of the wetland if that's avoidable. So we do have to continue because we don't have that file number. Lenny will have to put together the stormwater checklist to get that to us and to DEP to look at. But right, it looks like there's been some good revisions made to kind of address some of the things that we've talked about at this time. So I think that kind of covers everything I had kind of previously commented on. We would have to look towards a continuation. Lenny, do you think you'd have that for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. The board has any comments?
Any questions?
I read through the site walk visit, and vegetation was the one question I just hadn't seen addressed by Lenny. So you did that, and I think that would be a good improvement. But other than that, I think it's made all the right moves.
This is at 99, Lenny?
It's 60 Main Street, is that what you're saying? What are you
No,
saying?
the elevation's
The
at
elevation is
99.
at 99,
Elevation 99, yeah,
and elevation in the front is 103.
right.
So this pipe, what are we talking about? As far as,
As far as what is now,
what,
Pitch? What's the change in
what's
elevation?
the change in elevation?
there will be no change in elevation. We're holding grades as is.
But from your oil water separator here, from here down here, is there any pitch here? So that way the water will flow down? Is that what you're asking it?
Yes, with the parking itself basically is up at, that elevation right in there is basically at 102, which is the most southerly part of the area where the parking is, and down where the basin is down at 100. So we've got a 2-foot drop from the building to where the basin's going to be, holding existing grades.
Okay, I just, it's close. You live down there, so you've been flooded out,
Right.
so.
I was only flooded out 3 times.
Just have one other comment, sorry. As part of that stormwater checklist, there will be an operation and maintenance plan. So there's a requirement to do maintenance on these, but Lenny will put that together for you
Okay.
too.
Thank you.
All right, so would you like a continuation, Lenny?
Hold on.
Yes,
Eric,
please.
well,
Eric, you got anything?
The snow storage seems to be into the 25-foot. I mean, I know it's a tight property, but I mean, is there any other way to tighten that up and get the snow storage outside of the 25-foot?
that's actually, right, a good question, because I think under the stormwater standards, you might have to keep that on an area that goes to treatment. So it might have to stay somewhere that'll drain into
Yeah,
your treatment.
it's a good point.
So just have to look at that.
It was,
I made one good point.
well, because of site constraints, what happens is part of the snow removal is, I've got it basically the furthest from the wetland area itself. Any further than that, I'd be encroaching upon the walkway for the handicap ramp. And if you look at the snow removal, is basically, near the property line on that side. We could tweak it a little bit to be within the, out of the 25 by changing it at, say, 180 degree, no problem. We could do that.
But basically, this area has been being plowed by next door, right? The road going in has been completely, and now you'll be responsible to plow your area. So,
We'll be responsible to plow our area, correct.
yeah,
But as far as the roadway itself, if you look on the map on the easterly side of the property, she has a 10-foot travel easement within their roadway, which is already paved,
No, I know,
and she's utilizing.
yeah, I know that. Yeah, you went through that, but then you can't store any snow in that.
No,
That's what I was,
no.
Okay, all right.
Anyone in the?
Well, and in addition to that, are there any protections to make sure that, I mean, obviously, snow storage is all great on a plan, but beyond that, is there anything that's going to provide the wetland protection against somebody who doesn't have the exact plan, surveyed plan in front of them as they're out there in the middle of a snowstorm, pushing that snow into the wetland or further into the buffer?
Good question. The difference in elevation between that spot and the wetland is 2 feet, Eric. When that snow melts, it's going into the wetland.
Could have a field
Yeah,
back there.
I mean, I'm less concerned about the natural percolation of that melting going down in there. I get your point, but that F-350 that's going to be pushing the snow needs to have a line of demarcation to not go past, don't you think?
I don't disagree with you.
Well, you
But it's
gotta,
going to be a Chevy truck.
you
Well,
lot.
we never
Sorry,
do that yet.
Curb
You
that
know that.
parking
I mean, we
space
build
around.
intelligent design into our vehicles,
Flat
but
pavement.
that Ford might.
So that's what he's saying, is there some way to stop the plow from going into the grass or?
Put a fence, split rail fence or
Doesn't
something
have
like
to be
that.
much, but that way then you can hold them accountable.
Right.
You know,
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think that would be an improvement and might give us something of further justification to possibly look at the waiver within the 50-foot. So
Yeah.
it would certainly make me more comfortable. But that's all I had, Ed. Thank you.
heat your driveway and then not have to pay for plowing. Just run a cable underneath it.
Okay, we got
Until the-
anybody in the audience that'd like to speak? Anybody online would like to speak? And you'd like a continuation, Lenny?
Please.
All in favor of a continuation?
Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodman in favor? Eric?
Eric,
To June 22nd, correct?
Beg your pardon?
June 22nd for the record?
The next meeting, June 22nd.
Oh, okay. Alrighty, we are now
Thank you.
on 76 Stallion Hill. We have an RDA for the removal of trees in the riverfront. Lenny, you up for this?
Which one is that one?
No,
No.
we have the property owner and applicant online here, but I
right.
can give a quick summary. Actually, some members weren't there. Do you want me to pull up in the RDA packet? There was a little sketch where the trees are
Yeah,
coming
bring it
out.
up. Bring it
Okay,
up,
Eric, I'm
please.
gonna pull that up and I'll give a quick summary, and if there's anything you want to add, you can add that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good night. Here's. All right, so, like I said, we do have the property owner and applicant online here. This is a property that we recently had an application in front of us. It was a property that, had been abandoned for some time, was remodeled, and Eric is the new property owner here. There are 4 trees in the property he'd like to remove at this time. He did have an arborist submit a report. There was 2 trees that weren't dead, and he's in a riverfront area, so we asked him to file the RDA for this. Trees 1 and 2 on here are clearly dead. You can see where the box with the 76 is, that's his house. We do have that perennial stream that does flow right behind the house right there. Tree 3 is a maple tree that has some signs of decline, and 4 is a very large pine that the arborist had some concerns with too. We did do a site visit out there. Don't see any concern with the removal based off the arborist evaluation of these. It's a very, very tight site, so there's not really opportunity for replanting here. One of the things noted in the arborist report was that there was a potential request to stump or grind 3 and 4. We looked at that when we were out there, and there was a little concern, you know, with not doing that at this time. Didn't really seem necessary, so maybe leaving those in place because it is a slope that goes down to the stream right there. So I don't know if the applicant has any concern or maybe wants to explain why they wanted to remove those, if the board sees it's necessary or not. One of the things that we noted out there is that there's, you know, the site has grown back. It was, you know, probably more developed at the time, but it was abandoned for quite some time. There's some vegetation removal around the stream. I did talk to the owner about that. He's now aware, you know, not to be doing that type of removal without permitting. So just wanted to note that. Eric, is there anything you want to add?
Yes, can you hear me all?
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, so 3 and 4 are the ones that really I have a lot of concerns about, especially 3-4, which is a big pine tree and that is dropping limbs. And during the last snowstorm, I actually had one large limb that fell over my roof and woke me up at 3 a.m. Fortunately, it didn't went through. That's when everything started, like, oh, I need to take a look at these trees. That's really my concern, that having those trees falling or limbs continue dropping over my property. And on the right side of my property, that's where I actually have all the bedrooms. So those are actually my living quarters. So that's my main concern.
All right. Roy, anything? Ted? Anything?
No.
Person? No.
Eric? Sorry.
Eric, why do you want to grind the stumps on 3 and 4?
So again, those trees are very, very close to my property, and 3-4 and tree number 4, those are that tree is dropping limbs. And do you mean by grind, like you mean like remove it from the property, correct?
Eric, I'm asking you why you want to grind the stumps. I'm not asking you why you want to cut the tree. I can see why you want to cut the tree.
I don't understand what you mean by grinding.
Sorry, Joe.
I'm not very familiar.
Yeah, I can explain. Joe noted in the arborist report about grinding or removing the stumps after the tree's cut down. So like pulling out the roots and the stump instead of leaving it in place and letting it kind of naturally rot. Is it okay with you to leave those?
Oh, yes, I would be okay if that's necessary. I would prefer to leave it if that they can't bring any termites or something. I don't really know about that. That would be my only concern. But I wouldn't have any problem with them just leaving it rot there.
Okay, good. And the other thing that we noted when we were out on site is that you're starting to clear an area next to the stream, just across the stream as you face your house to the left. Anything that you do near that stream, you need to file with us for. It's illegal to be clearing next to a riverfront.
Yes, now I understand that, and I actually told Becky the purpose of I didn't it wasn't just for clearing or building something. The purpose of that was to remove a lot of trash that were left over the construction of the construction company that actually did the remodel. I found tiles from the old roof just there, a lot of broken glass, a lot of metal debris. It was about 8 or 9 large bags of trash that I had to take out of there. And the only way I could access that was to cut a lot of that part because it wasn't possible to access it. I also cleaned the river. That I also found a lot of bottles, glass bottles, a lot of, again, metal debris that were inside the water. So my only purpose in that was to clear the area. And I'm actually happy to mention that thanks to that, I've actually seen more wildlife around there. I've seen deers, I've seen rabbits, and other animal species that I don't know how to call it. So that was my own intention. And right now I don't have any intention to modify that area. that's the actual reason I moved there. I just love nature. That's my only purpose.
Great, great. All right. Anybody have anything further? Have a motion?
Anyone in the public?
What, public? Okay, sorry. Anybody in the public? No?
Eric, did you get a turn?
Eric, did you have anything to say?
No, I mean, the only thing I was gonna say is there's no replacements proposed, but you said in your notes, Beck, that it's a challenging site for replacements. Any concerns there that we need to be aware of, or is there any suggestions that you have there? That
Well,
being
actually,
the case?
the other side of the stream is kind of cleared now. You could put a tree over there if you wanted. That's on the development side where the house is, you couldn't put anything there. But you could put one over there that would provide some shade in that area of the stream if you wanted.
Yeah, I saw no reason.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
very well treated. Anybody?
All right, well then, my only comment then is to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second that.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor. With regards to the project at 76 Stallion Hill Road, I'd like to make a motion to issue a determination of a -3 with the agent's conditions, a positive 2B with no resource area approval, and a positive number 5 with the agent's conditions of offset.
Second.
And seconded by Karsten. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Great. All right, thank you, Eric. Take care.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right, we are at
Thank you for the time.
1 Old Sturbridge Village Road, notice of intent, tree removal and vista pruning. 300 dash, no,
We do have a file number now. Yep, it is.
1162.
Was that 1162?
Yes.
Yep.
Just for the record, we have receipt of legal ad notification. There are no abutter notifications required due to the size of the property. DEP does not require a abutter notification. It only requires it within 100 feet. And we would follow the same under our bylaw within 200 feet. There are no abutters within 200 feet of the project scope, therefore they didn't have to notify anybody.
all right, great, I didn't know that.
Learn something new every day. Sharing, right, yes. You can, go ahead if you'd like. Yeah.
You could introduce yourselves and.
Sure. Steve Peichel for the applicant, Sherman Fredericks.
And Reese Simmons from Old Sturbridge Village.
Rebecca, did you need a proof of advertisement for the project, or do you?
We have it, yep, yeah, we get those, find those ourselves.
So if I may, I just want to briefly introduce our project. I know that you had a field walk and that Reese from the village was out there with you. I think what we are proposing is fairly straightforward. We would like to take some very large trees to the southeast of the property towards the riverfront, and also do some plantings, of course. And then there is another attachment that I brought as a handout that would just give us a better itemization of what we are doing and what we're proposing for the gardens. And if I may, I'd just like to bring you the handout, please.
Thank you.
Well, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
So the applicant is proposing to hire a professional tree service to very carefully and incrementally remove trees without stump grinding, and then in turn, well, of course, the first part would be to employ all of the sediment and erosion control line to in front of the activity, so any areas that could potentially be exposed to erosion or sediment would be carefully picked up there. But honestly, the only things that are going to be going on in that area of impact, if you will, would be the cutting of trees. And we don't propose to do anything more than that. What I'd like to do is just bring to your attention some of the historic features that the applicant has put together. If you look at photo exhibit 1, you actually see an itemization of what the cutting would involve, as well as the amounts of trees that would be cut. The second photo exhibit actually shows a rendering of what the gardens are going to be proposed to the plantings in them. And then the third exhibit actually shows a historic, and where approximately is the date of that photo?
1956.
1956 photo of the town museum there. And as you can see, what the object of this really is to open up the riverfront for guests that do come into the garden, and because of some of the overgrowth that is there now, what we want to do is actually reduplicate what's going on historically. So if you just care to look at the last exhibit, number 5, is actually, and I'm sorry about the size, but I tried to get this very carefully into an 8.5 by 11 sheet. But there is several and many plantings here that the applicant is going to do to beautify what is going on in this area. So although it might seem like we're really just taking trees down, really the focus and the object of it is really to restore the 1950s character of the museum and to modify it in such a way where it's actually a nice place to sit and have lunch. And so that is the applicant's goal, and I can entertain any questions that you may have about the application.
All right, so a few of us did go out there, took a look at it. So in total, we're talking about, there's 4 large oaks, the 1 large pitch pine, which is in the garden area, and then there's 12 smaller pines in the area. So the 12 smaller pines are shown in this area here, and this is kind of for the opening up the vista. The trees in the back here are more concerned about shade on the garden. There was some concern about removal of the trees. You know, there was a lot of concern about removal of that many of the large oaks there. One of the things I mentioned as an option maybe is if, you know, the ones in the back could stay, if the commission had a concern. But overall, you know, it is riverfront, it is buffer zone. It's a very large riverfront there. There's still going to be a lot of trees in that area. And considering the nature of the project, I would see it as an insignificant impact here that I wouldn't have a concern with. So, and they will allow, you know, things to revegetate in that area too. So I don't have any major concerns with the proposal.
I kind of, do have a concern.
Okay.
As I said, it's a really nice tree that you cut out. And then our bylaws, actually, I just checked. It says tree removal within the first 50 feet of any resource area will only be allowed if there's not a significant change to the canopy. It seems to me this is huge significant change that you want to introduce there, and you take out a lot of the shades, and in this day and age, I think this doesn't look very appealing to me. I mean, it will be so hot, nobody will eat lunch there. The sun will burn it to the ground, or you will have to water it constantly. So it doesn't seem to be, in this day and age, a very sustainable way of doing business. And I think you could put in a plate and say, in the 1830s, you wouldn't see this tree, and you would see, I mean, we always look at the past with the sensitivities of the present, and you do celebrate Christmas in a way that wasn't celebrated in the 1830s. I actually think you could beautify the area by maybe choosing plants that look nice and grow in the shade, and have some apple trees or whatever trees on the one side, and leave the area the way it is, and actually allow for a shady spot to eat your lunch. So I mean, given our bylaws, I'm not so impressed by the need to cut the tree. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any real reason for it besides these pictures, and the question is, do you really want to look at like this? I mean, it looks nicer now.
Yeah.
I mean, this tree is really beautiful, actually.
It is. Yeah. Can I provide a little bit of information?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, obviously working with our horticulturalist, who's, we have many on our team. The garden right now is about 40% sun right now. So throughout the entire day, the vast majority of the day, it's in shade. The garden, the way it's designed, is supposed to be a pleasure garden. It's supposed to be an ornamental garden. It's supposed to be flower driven. It should get at least 70% sun. And right now, one of our chief goals of this project too is to bring fruit trees. So the previous proposal that we had on your plate was to plant 78 new apple trees in an orchard that had only 15 trees. We're in the process of doing that. Thank you very much. And this one, we're looking to plant 8 new different kinds of fruit trees. So we're looking to plant a peach tree, a plum tree, an apricot tree, and a cherry tree. All have unique stories to the past, right? We can't plant those trees in that garden the way the garden is right now. The fungus will take over, the blight will take over, there's just too much shade. So if this proposal is not granted, we will have to completely change our interpretive goals for the space.
Just to put my 2 cents in, I agree with Karsten. I mean, we're in a time when we're looking at global warming, and we look to historic museums for leadership.
Sure.
And historic museums tell us they want to do vista pruning, which is not leadership. You can go to the lakes and see vista pruning. Everybody wants to take down every tree in front of the house so they can see the lake. Stump grindings, I thought we weren't doing stump grinding.
We're not doing any stump grinding on any of the trees on the riverside of the garden.
Okay, so the
Pitch pine?
Yeah, the pitch pine, yes.
yeah. Okay, well, that's there. That's on the riverside of the garden.
Well, he means it's
It's
in
within the
lands-
garden space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my apologies.
If I look at this, the pitch pine here, right? That's the pitch pine?
Yes, yep.
I have no problem with the removal of that, although it's a beautiful tree, and I have seen very few of them coming from the Cape, and the fire that we had in '57, about the time you're doing this, it took out everything except the whole area became pitch pine. The 2 trees that I do have a concern about are this maple, is this an oak here? A white
yeah.
oak?
Yeah, it's an oak. Yeah.
Yeah, and this tree here,
Yeah, also an oak.
yeah. Would you compromise and leave those 2?
Unfortunately, that would negate, like I said, that would negate any of the planning and the improvements that we want to make in the space.
Okay.
What about leaving the 2 closer to the river?
What?
What about leaving the 2 closer to the river?
I think that's what he kind of suggested,
No,
right, Ed?
those are different.
Well, they're not interested in any compromise from what I got out of the answer.
Ed wants this
No,
one.
that's not
I want that
entirely
one
true.
now.
This one.
Yeah.
These 2 are closer to the river. Maybe
Can
those
you
could stay.
trim it a little bit? Maybe
those back ones potentially, yeah.
The front one with a nice.
I
Is there a
just don't see
slope
it.
on that going
Yeah.
down? So those,
yeah.
Yes.
those two trees that, Ed, you're looking at are closer to the garden.
They're
So
at the garden level.
They're at the garden level.
Yeah. They're huge and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
I think as perhaps an intermediate step, what we could do is potentially leave the two closest to the river. And what would you think about maybe the pines, in the smaller pines?
They are not
Would that
the
be a
nice-
problem, Reese?
That could be a compromise for sure.
Okay. So as a potential compromise, Mr. Chairman, what we could do is leave the two larger trees closest to the riverbank and selectively prune the trees as well. And the trees would be not topped or anything like that, if that's your concern.
5 up here. Would this tree, this tree, this tree, this tree.
Those aren't coming out. These ones aren't coming out, Ed. There's this one, these
Right.
two oaks here, 2 oaks here. This is the pitch pine in the garden, and then in this area is just noted there's 12 smaller pines in that area.
That's just what, to create some visibility to the
Right. Yeah, we
waterfront
need to
while you're in the
Open
garden.
landscape, yeah.
But also potentially provide more or less shading to the garden area where we could actually establish growths of plants that we're proposing in the gardens as well. Because as Reese is saying, that they would not grow with that amount of shade. Like he's saying,
I'm actually a little bit reluctant to decide all of these questions just now. Seems to me that it might be good whether you come with interpretive alternatives for this space that somehow
I can come up with more of a case, sure.
think a little bit about it and what you can do with it.
Sure.
And maybe we can talk about it. because-
Yeah, I'd be
Well-
happy to.
Personally, I missed that site walk. I was out of town, so if I could get in without paying a fee to take a look
You're a
at it.
resident, you can't.
Any day you want, any day you want.
Oh, there you go. That's, I've been to the Headless Horseman. That's the only time. So. Okay, well, yeah, all right, then anytime I could scoot over there. Fantastic.
Eric, do you have anything to add? You're muted.
You're muted, Eric.
You're muted.
You're on mute, Eric.
Sounded great.
My bad.
Sounds
The
good,
only
Eric.
thing I was going to say is you had made a note that the project did not seem to give significant impact to the resource area. So my tendency is you tend to be more conservative in these areas than I am. So if you feel like there's not a significant impact here, I'd have to kind of gauge my own opinions based off of that. I, like Ted, was not on site, so if we're working towards a compromise, I'd like to get some eyes on this. But at the same time, if there wasn't going to be any adjustments to it, I'd probably be satisfied with the agent's opinion on this, that it doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem to be any significant impact at this point. So that was my only comment.
All right. So the question is, the applicant has agreed to a continuation, a site visit. Are the members in agreement with that?
Scoot over there
Yeah.
next few days.
Roy, you all set with that?
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna have a continuation and go with. Full site
Audience,
visit.
audience.
Anyone in the audience like to speak to this? Seeing none, anybody on the line?
No.
Nope. So we will have a continuation. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
So the continuation would be June 22nd.
You gonna vote for that?
Did you vote for the continuation? Vote?
No, there wasn't.
Eric Gaspar.
We already did
There
that.
wasn't.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't.
You gotta vote.
We should vote. We have to vote.
I'll make a motion to
Continuation. All in favor of
continue
the
the
continuation.
public hearing for, is that 1 Old Sturbridge Village Road, notice of intent tree removal and vista pruning. DEP file 300-1162.
Second.
All in favor?
Board Bishop in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor?
Did you second that?
Yeah, I second.
He seconded it.
I thought I
Is
heard
there any
it.
public discussion on that motion? Do we have to, or no? No, okay. No.
We now, number 6, we're at 11 Cary Road.
No, you're skipping over one. 5.
26 South.
Oh, man, I'm in a hurry tonight. All right, 26 South Road, SWB, NOI, single-family home with associated site work. Derek Bender is the owner applicant.
Ready?
How you doing?
Hello. Hi. So my name is Derek Bender. I'm the owner and applicant for 26 South Road to build a new house. So as you see it there, that's the lot plan. That's where we're planning on putting the house. I did modify after filing with Becky last week, discussing modifying the ECB line just about 30 feet to the east in the top northeast corner for,
You've got a
oh,
pointer there. You
there
can
you go. So this was on the original application, kind of cutting a corner here and coming over to here. But due to the grading and raising the house, calculating out what the grade would be, it was better to bring the grading out a little bit further over here to try and maintain a 5% grade from the house out to about that spot. So that was the only change that was made when I made the filing with Becky. So as you can see, we're good to stay outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. There's no reason to go in there. The pond that my neighbor owns at 22 South Road is over in this region here. So the work is going to stay inside of the ECB line, so that'll be the limit of work. We don't plan on going beyond that for anything. The driveway is mostly finished at this point. That was started before I purchased the property. And speaking with my neighbors, Jason and downhill, so at 24 South Road, there's significant water issues with that runoff. They didn't properly build the driveway, so I had an excavation company come in and redo the driveway properly with good drainage. They actually worked with the town to make sure the drainage was adequate for the site. So that runoff has been corrected. Yeah, pretty much it. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Becky?
Sure. So, right, as he stated, we did work to revise that limit of work line because there would be some additional grading out there. Just so you're aware, the site is mapped for priority habitat for state listed species. So he did file previously with the Natural Heritage Program. They did issue a no-take determination for the site plan. Only thing is that the revised plan you'll need to send back to them. It's a,
I reached out to them. I haven't heard back yet.
okay,
on
perfect,
what the
perfect.
process
It's a minor change, so probably not a significant concern for them.
Yeah.
But since they did approve the limit of work line, this species actually has a disturbance threshold that they use, and it's like about 2 acres, and then it triggers something else with them. So if it changes to that degree, then they might require additional permitting from you. So I don't think you're at that, but you just need to make sure.
They didn't provide me any data on what species
Yeah,
it was.
yeah, they didn't say anything, they just said no takes, which is good. So, Right, we'll just want to make sure that they don't have any concerns with it prior to you closing the public hearing, because then if there's some type of change, he'll have to refile for an amendment and do a new legal ad, et cetera. So I think it'd just be advisable to wait on that, to make sure that Natural Heritage is okay with the revised plan. I think it's probably insignificant to them, but just make sure. As he stated too, the driveway was started previously. It was actually started prior to the state-listed mapping here, with a driveway permit from the town. He did come in and fix that, which they did check in with on that at that time about fixing the driveway. As you can see here, the work is cited outside the 100-foot buffer zone here, so it wasn't required to go to the state. The only question, we went and did a site visit up there last week, is that what's the intention for that old field back there? If that's to be converted to yard or anything, the destruction of vegetation is a jurisdictional activity. So that would just be something that the commission would need to know, and then also Natural Heritage would want to know that too. So just, if that's the,
Yeah, there's no current plans to
Okay.
to do anything outside of the E ECB.
okay, perfect. One thing, since it is like rare species habitat, we've done it on some sites with vernal pool habitat, and we've done it in other areas, is just some type of permanent demarcation might be advisable, like for the limit of the work here. Sometimes it could be like a split rail fence or boulders or bollards or something that's just a reminder of what that approved developed area is. Not that that couldn't change, but you just have to come back for permitting for anything outside of that. So it's something that the commission may want to do just for like the back part, if you see it necessary.
So that's just you're recommending that just during the construction?
No, typically if they do ask for that, it's something that remains on the site. Like I said, sometimes it's just boulders every 25, 50 feet or so. And that's just a permanent demarcation showing where you have approved work areas,
Okay.
if they see fit,
Yeah, so part of building the house where it is, the back corner of the house will be looking towards the pond in the back, so it's a nice view. So I'd prefer not to obstruct the view with any lines of rocks or anything. That would be my preference.
Got anything? Deb? Anything?
No, I'm listening. I didn't get a chance to go to the site walk either, so it's, unfortunately, I wasn't there that day, so.
Well, I think I did go to the site. I think it looks, it's a great place for a home. The issue of endangered species. We're going to hear back from National Heritage again with this plan.
we should, if he sent it, we should hear back from them.
Yeah, I figured you would want to know, so I inquired about what would be needed to give them this
Wanna approve this now?
slightly new, updated version, but I haven't heard back.
I can't speak for them. If they have no concerns and they say it's fine, then he's okay. If they say, we want you to revise your plan, then he would have to file an amendment with the board and come back for another public hearing, but he'd have to pay for a legal ad and notify abutters again and pay an amendment fee. So the only reason, you're not starting in the next couple of weeks anyways, right?
No, but
Yeah.
Like to get
So if you waited-
at some point, yeah.
Waited the 3 weeks, I think you'd have an answer from Natural Heritage, which would clarify that. But that's up to you and up to the applicant. You don't have to wait for that. It's a separate review. But that's the only downside. If they do say, hey, no, you've increased your work envelope, I don't think that will happen. Then he will have to go. It's up to him. He'd have to go through that process with us again and amend his permit.
yeah, when I did my due diligence and I bought the property, I had filed a pre-review with MISA, which encompassed a slightly wider scope, kind of out the back with a circle, because I didn't know exactly where we were going to be. And at that time, they had no issues with that. So this scope is actually a little bit smaller than what I had initially, inquired about at the very beginning.
So you feel confident you'll get your approval?
Eric, you got any
I
comments?
don't see an issue. It was only 30 feet. I can't speak for them, but
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to speak to
It's
them
minor.
either, but.
it's,
Eric?
I'm just curious, I can't see necessarily the wetland on the plan. What are we what's what are we buffering
It's
against?
outside of the 100 feet, yeah, that's it.
Stream or what is it?
Yeah,
So it's a bordering vegetated wetland, and there's a pond
yeah.
back here.
Okay. All right. Cool. That's the only question I had. I'm good with the project.
All right. Do I have a motion to?
Nope.
Well, go around. What?
Public comment.
Oh, any public comment? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Public comment?
Yep. I did get an email from one person today. I'll just
Oh, read it.
summarize it just quickly. She couldn't come to the meeting, so Laura Savage, who lives over there, she did say that she couldn't come to the meeting tonight. She just wanted to bring up, she knows that you fixed the driveway, that she had some water issues before. She doesn't have any water issues from the driveway anymore, but she says that she believes there's an old well back there that's overflowing, during heavy rainstorms, which overflows on her property. So she doesn't think it's a conservation-related issue, but she'd like to work to get that addressed with you. So I can give you this email if you want to
Okay.
contact her. Okay?
Okay.
Any other public comment?
Yes. Excuse me.
Oh, Scott, you just gotta come to the mic over here and just introduce yourself for the viewers at home.
Derek, do you have any kids?
What's that?
Do you have any kids?
I do, yes. I have 2 kids.
Find that well and make
Yes.
sure that it's covered.
Sorry, Scott McCarthy. I'm in a butter, 22 South Road. And on the notice, the box was checked off about permission to conduct work within a wetland. So I was wondering if that is actually the case or was the wrong box checked and we're not actually working within the wetland.
From the plan I've seen, they're not working in the wetland.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was
I
just
haven't seen a plan. I just got the notice.
Yeah,
And the wetland, the pond is entirely on my property. So all the work that's on his property is going to run off into the pond that's on my property. So I was concerned, and I was also just wanted to question any erosion control. I assume some erosion control is going to be enforced, maintained, and checked.
absolutely, yep.
Is there like regular intervals that gets checked, or and is
We add that, it's normal procedure.
But at the end of that sentence, it should have said, and the buffer zones, I don't know.
And/or the buffer zone.
And/or buffer zone.
So it's got cut off or something, that's the general language that's used for all notice of intent.
Got it. Yeah, because the second box mentioned the buffer zones, but the first one didn't. So, okay. All right. So, again, an order of conditions will be released, I guess, as part of this approval. Is it something that we can?
Yep.
I'm just concerned about the runoff. So, clearly, it all ends up in my pond. I think that's it.
The other thing I would add is with the erosion controls, because of the steep driveway, like that driveway goes down, it enters road drainage, and there are wetlands that it eventually discharges to, is that the end, when we've had steep driveways like this, we've had them put up temporary controls, like hay bales, along the driveway at the end of the workday, just to make sure that if there's any, a rainstorm, any events, that it doesn't end up going down there too. But it does show, there is, on this plan, you just can't see it on this part of the screen, well, you can right now, there is straw wattles that are proposed in the back here. So, if the commission sees it is over 100 feet away. We could add on that back section, just on this back section here, maybe add a silt fence, an entrenched silt fence there too, might be advisable, so,
And construction.
yeah.
Yeah, so whatever needs to go with the ECB line is for the erosion control barrier, whatever's needed, that's what I was expecting to do.
Yeah.
You've got a pretty reasonable slope through there. Right.
Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, are we calling for a vote here, or is the applicant asking for a continuation to wait till?
We have other people with questions. We'll get that in a second. Go ahead.
It's not so much a question. I reviewed the wetland line for Mr. Bender and wrote the BVW data form, and just to say that a 100-foot buffer zone through a field has a attenuation to it itself with the grasses and herbaceous layer compared to a forested area where erosion might run down between trees. So if he does put a silt fence in and it's entrenched like S&M does, as far as the consultant, and he did ask me to look at this, that we don't see any erosion getting down to the gentleman's pond, and yes, it's all in the buffer zone. And the wetland line, which was delineated by Mr. Jalbert, and the flags were still up when I got there. I did do the data forms, and the delineation is correct. So I just verified the delineation that was done by Mr. Jalbert a few years ago. I did, and I think that's all I have to say about it for you.
Thank you.
Eric? Now your question.
Yep. So my question is for the applicant. Are you requesting a vote, or are you requesting a continuation to wait for the report to come back from NHESB?
I'm fine with the vote. No, that's fine.
So you're aware of the risk that if they come back with any changes, you're going to need to reapply.
Yeah, then, and, you know, if there is a need, we could pull back the ECB back to the initial line if I really had to, but I'm not concerned about it.
You also have to reapply through us with a new legal ad and things. That's what Eric, just confirming you understand that.
Well, the original ECB line would be within what I got approved for you now, so I wouldn't be concerned about doing something less.
Yeah, you at least have to come, legally, you'd have to come back and they can say, hey, that's a minor change because it's a smaller reduction. You don't have to do a full amendment, but they would still need approval because it's a change to what was approved, but it wouldn't have to probably go through that whole process.
We have a
so.
motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, Carson seconds. All in any discussion? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor. With regards to the project at 26 South Road, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the project on the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw notice of intent with the agent's notes.
I would just add too, I didn't read it, but I had it in my notes here too, that because it's a new single-family house, you would typically do that surety bond or deposit too as part of the conditions.
Oh, you beat me to the punch because that was in your notes. So I was going to ask for how much of a bond were we going to ask for?
For single-family houses, it's been $5,000 bond.
Okay. With the bond for $5,000.
Yeah.
Second.
Do you have any further discussion on it?
None.
The road's already in. Do we need a bond? The road's already in.
Not the
The
road.
driveway is in.
Well, that's not even in your jurisdiction. It's the house and the development and everything in there.
Yeah.
You could make it less if you want because it's not all of that within your jurisdiction if you wanted, but that's up to you.
No, I don't. I just,
The intent is to
That's
make
my
sure that the work gets done and the permit gets closed and all the conditions are met.
we've decided on 5. Why don't we leave it at 5?
Okay.
Any discussion on that?
No.
I have a second on that.
Second.
Okay.
All right, so now, that was a second on what? On
The Eric's motion.
Eric's motion. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to do 11 Cary Road.
You can.
All
I'll
right.
let you.
11 Cary Road, SWB, NOI, addition of an accessory dwelling unit and expansion of leach field.
How you doing? I'm Steven Soper. I'm representing Teresa Paquin on this project. So,
Mark.
he is absent tonight. So I'm filling in. We are proposing to put an accessory building Her daughter owns the existing 3-bedroom house at 11 Cary Road. Look at that, which is down here.
I'm just gonna share this, sorry.
So there's the proposed accessory dwelling there. The existing house is down there with the existing leach field here. And we are right on the edge of the 200-foot buffer zone with the driveway and probably the development of the yard. When we started the project, we didn't start the project yet, but we didn't realize there were wetlands there, and Becky asked us to make sure, so we had Mark go out there and flag some wetlands across the street. So we have the permit. We're just coming here to get your blessing on it.
Okay. Where's the septic system?
Right there.
Okay.
Here's the existing system. We're gonna add a trench to it.
Just a trench to it?
Yeah.
Brings it into, that's it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a pump on it? Because it's downhill.
Yeah, we're gonna pump from her. There's a small pump going in from her house, a grinder pump that's gonna pump up to the existing tank.
Okay.
That's gonna go into the leach field.
All right. Any questions?
No?
Yeah, yeah. Eric? Did
No
you get to look-
questions.
You didn't get to see that one either, huh? Okay, I don't have any questions. It looks good to me.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is that we asked Mark to add the erosion controls. I would just add, kind of pull those up maybe and around, especially if you're doing more clearing over here around the driveway. And same thing with the last project. We know that Cary Road's a pretty steep road.
Yeah.
It goes right down to Lead Mine Pond. Everything drains down there. So it's not really a concern about impacts to the wetlands across Cary Road, but more during construction. If that's open and we have a huge storm, it's gonna wash out and go into the lake. So I think we need to make sure we got a little bit better of erosion controls there. And then we block that driveway entrance at night too. There's some further up, it looks like you guys are gonna do some drainage stuff too here.
That's already done.
Okay, I was just gonna say, same thing, you might wanna time that around, not having a storm, but it looks like you guys already did that anyway,
Yeah,
so.
that was done a while ago, I think.
So otherwise, I don't see any concerns. Same thing, you guys, single-family new developments, you do a bond to make sure people come in and get it closed out. To be consistent, I'd recommend that we do that. It's up to you about the amount if you'd
Okay.
like,
Yep.
so.
Any discussion?
Public,
Public, yep. Anybody in the public like to speak to this? Anybody on air?
I'd like to speak. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Wait, just a second.
What?
is there anyone on the
Come
public
on.
line who'd like to speak for the notice of intent for 11 Cary Road? Negative.
Eric, hit it.
I will reaffirm my motion to close the public hearing.
Second that.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none? And including the $5,000 bond, right?
Hmm?
Yeah,
Yes.
I just wanted you to make sure you knew.
Yeah, what is it? That's new, huh?
Okay. All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Great.
With regards to 11 Cary Road, under the Service Wetland Bylaw Notice of Intent, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project with the agent's notes, including the $5,000 bond.
Second that.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Now,
Thank you very much.
thanks. Tell Mark you did a better job than he does.
Oh, you wanted me to ask, you want to ask me about that?
All right, we are at 446 Main Street, notice of intent. Work to satisfy an expired OOC, DEP file number 300-1161.
Thank you, Chairman. Glenn Kravosky from EBT Environmental relative to the Empire Village site. Thank you for the site inspection we had with Mr. Goodwin and Ms. Gendreau. So the question was, when this was built, it was originally done by Andrews Surveying and Engineering. We have the plans. I believe you might have plans on the screen. Historically, that date was back in '05, when they tore the building down and put a new one up under a order of conditions, notice of intent. And there was a subsequent amendment that had several issues with, small issues with the site. There's a beaver problem at the site. There's a water quality swale to the rear of the house, rear of the structure, which would be to the north. There was questions in the, and they never received the certificate of compliance, so there was a requirement of maintenance of the water quality swale, that it be kept mowed a couple times a year, down to 4 to 5 inches off grade, to ensure that we didn't kill the plants, or they didn't kill the plants, as they were pollution attenuation plants such as Typholatifolia, cattail, woolgrass, carex. There was some check dams also within the, on the plan. And so we sent Levesque, Joe Levesque out there, Levesque-Matic, and he picked up the original swale. We had mowed it before that. We side it down, then mowed it. Then he went and did his work. We overlaid the original Andrews plan. Oh, I'm just looking to see if it shows up on the screen. We, the members might want to see it.
I'd like to see it.
What are we looking
That's
for?
all.
Sorry.
The plan, the overlay plan, like the
What
one
are
you
you looking
drew
for,
on.
446
yeah.
Main.
Just so we can see what we're talking. I appreciate it. I'll be quick.
These two as-built ones.
I think it's the second one, the one that you drew
Sure.
on.
Either one will get us there, just to give them a general.
Our network's down, so I went downstairs and I had to put everything on a thumb drive here, so
Yeah.
This one.
This is the one.
And then the next one with the pads on it. Then
Oh, I
you
don't
have
have
one
that
more,
one.
maybe?
I got this one and then the one I just had up here, this one. This one has
Okay,
a pad on
that'll
it.
be fine,
we go.
because it shows the pads. This is a takeoff of the final plan. I'm not sure what all the yellow is, but I can show you what's going on. Sure, that's better. Those are spot grades, most likely. So, this is the water, let's see if this thing's working. I could always place it. Where are you?
I saw it for a
There
second.
it is. Okay, I got it. So, here's the new building, '05 or so. The parking lot didn't change. Andrews, because it was a redevelopment, required a maximum extent practicable under stormwater. So this water quality swale, it says swale there, comes down, there's another piece of it here, then it goes out. The original wetland line was out here. The beaver dammed it up over here. This is an outflow. There's a down gradient swale here. You can just see that worded. So it drops about 3 to 4 feet down into this lower property and eventually over it, and then underneath the road where they were just repairing it with Maverick Construction. I think it was the culvert probably underneath that old building that they were fixing, if I,
Maverick Construction, is that what you call them?
Maverick?
Yeah.
The guys that were in the road for 2 years?
For 2
Yeah.
years, yeah.
I just want to know their names.
Oh, I know them well. Believe they've done stuff on Cape Cod Canal. We've done work with them forever. But that must have been quite a culvert underneath that building to do it that long. But anyways, they did
Gold
it
lined.
forever.
Yeah.
We all drove through it. So I'll just reiterate here. So this was the swale that was proposed. Levesque went back over it and found that these spot grades all through here, we were at the grade. So the one thing, clearly this was built, at least to us, and according to the as-built, according to the original plan, the top of the slope was where the top of the slope is. The spot grades are here. The check dams are in here. That swamp mats, the check dams are all in here. The outflow is out. I'll just say that this was on the original order, remove concrete pads. There must have been a building back here at one time, so there's flat slabs, 4 or 5 inches thick. That was in the original order, so we added it to the plan. We did find them, so I'll go through the few things we're looking at. The as-built showed that it was correct. the check dams were in place. The area is now dry, the brook is flowing down, elevation 5, here we go, 577.36 was the original invert elevation back in '05 on a corrugated metal pipe that was here. Our elevation, the pipe was removed a few years, whenever it was removed, it's not there any longer, but our outflow stone elevation dropping down is at 577.36, so we're not draining the swamp. It's the same elevation as the original outflow. We want to ensure that. We put a steel rod in right here so that we'll permanently know, and that says 580.36. So that top of that rod, it's actually stainless steel, so it won't rot, with a galvanized top on it, and it is at 3 feet above the outflow. So if there ever gets beaver clogged again, we'll reference this plan, reference the top of this, know what the outflow point was. But this is all stone, so we don't see it moving, even if the beaver builds a dam here or further down the system. We just took a beaver out 2 months ago out of here that was damming it back up and damming up a little dam here. And so we are back at the original elevation, and I'll get into the perpetuity clause on the beaver issue in 2 seconds. So this is a swamp mat. We're going to cross over through swamp mats, take those pads out, ensure there's a thin layer of loam there, seed it. So that'll be done. This is, again, built according to standard. Your order of conditions most likely will reference the old order of conditions that it has to be maintained, cut down a couple of times a year so that we don't get a woody vegetation growing in it, so it'll stay herbaceous. The parking lot drains to it, and that's where we get the cleanup of the colloidals by draining it into the water quality swale. It was an upland area historically, and that's why it was allowed to be dug through here. Going back to the beaver, we added in a perpetuity clause. You had an original perpetuity clause in your first order, so we could not get around that because nobody appealed it at the time. So we gave a document to you that said we will permanently be looking at this in the spring and the fall when the beavers move. We have Tetro out of Charlton will come in and remove the beavers at our expense. At this time, it costs us $450 or $500 to remove the beaver. So that's our problem. A new buyer is taking this over from Jimmy Empire, I call him. So now it's going to be, Jerry Empire is my client, and Jimmy is buying owns the business but doesn't own the property. So he's taking it over. That's why this all came to light, is that they were trying to sell it and they couldn't with the order. So back to this being maintained, the perpetuity clause. The parking lot didn't change any. It was never removed. There was a question about overland flow to the nursery over here. This sheds in this direction. This is the way we inherited it, or Jimmy did. So we didn't change any flow to the nursery over here, the children's area. And so that's it. We'll keep it in good state. It's all cleaned up. There's no more trash. This was a total dump over here before. That's all clean. There's nothing left for human debris out here. And we're hoping to get an order of conditions to remove the pads. And once we remove the pads and that's growing back, we'd come back for a certificate for both projects, for the original order to clean that off the deed, that cloud, and then take this cloud off. And that shouldn't take us more than a couple months from now to get this stabilized and just back into a herbaceous layer at that pad. And at that time, we'll be back. And the reason why we're using swamp mats, we don't want to cross into this swale and disrupt it. So these are 4 feet wide by 16 feet long, and a mini will go over there, take this apart in pieces, we'll take it back over, put it in a truck and get it off site, and that's how we get rid of it. And there's a couple of concrete knobs in here. Anything human over there, gone. And that's all I want to say about that.
Cool. All right.
So, yeah, I think that's good. Glenn's done a good job addressing the outstanding issues out here and addressing the beaver issues that we couldn't rectify the original proposal, which didn't work out here. So we have a good new solution. It'll be part of the new order. And the new property owner was out on the site walk with us. He understands that he has to keep up with the beavers on his property so he doesn't flood the whole area, as well as, the maintenance of the stormwater swale. So I think that's good, and I think I'd recommend moving forward and approving it.
Is there any formal reports? The spring and fall reports?
Yes, I think I did have that in here, sorry.
Right.
Perpetual condition for beaver management plan to include report submission to us yearly. In the O and M, part of the past order, I mean, it should be in there, the O and M, we asked that they submit those to us too, so.
Anything?
No, sounds good. Good work.
I'm very pleased with it.
Thank you.
I struggled with it for many years.
Oh, I wasn't sharing that.
We're on it now.
What?
We're on it now.
Yeah,
Yes,
it definitely is a pleasant thing to do, to go out there and see that.
Clean.
Sorry, Eric, I didn't realize I wasn't sharing the screen.
Either drained or drowned, that's what we.
No, yeah, you were for a while, and I was looking at the files online, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
All right. Do I have a motion to close the
Anyone in the
public?
public?
Public? Anybody in the public?
Anyone on the public line who'd like to speak about this project? Nope.
Seeing none?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Second that?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor. With regards to the project at 446 Main Street, DEP file number 300-1161, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project with the staff's recommendations and notes in the detailed agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
Second from Roy. All right. Any discussion at all? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Good.
With regards to the project at 446 Main Street, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project under the Sturbridge Wetland bylaw with the conditions noted above under the DEP notes.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Great. That's it. We're all set?
Yep. He's
I
staying
have
for the
one
next
more
one?
after
Another
this.
one.
Oh,
I'm next again.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Go for it.
Oh, you want to read it? Do you want to read it?
All right, I can read it. 660 Main Street, RDA for vernal pool study.
Thank you again, Chairman. We wrapped up the work with the waders on this weekend. We did locate 10 spotted salamander egg masses, and then the wood frogs that we had heard chorusing earlier on in a month and a half ago. We scooped through, and what I call this generally is called pollywog soup, because that's how many pollywogs are out there. We did take photos. We're working on the final, now that we have all the last documentation, we will be working on the certification of the vernal pools, which on your plan, if we could see the plan maybe,
You want me to pull that up?
please. I'm just gonna pass these around just for visual, if you choose to look at them. I'll be very quick on this, because we will be asking for a continuance, because within the next 2 weeks, we will wrap up both certifying vernal pool documentation. All you need is 5 egg masses of the spotted salamander to work towards certification with the documentation. Obligate vernal pool inhabitants, spotted salamander, and wood frog. The upper pool, I believe we call the upper one on the right-hand side, and number 2 with the lower one. The lower one right now is about 4.5 to 5 feet of water. The upper one is about 5 to 6 inches of water. The lower one actually has bullfrogs in it and green frogs, which indicate that it doesn't generally dry up, because bullfrogs need up to 2 years to get out as a tadpole into an adult. So that's a long-duration pond. It was created in around 62 when they built the Galileo. They put fill at the very tip of it. The southern tip is a fill across a valley, closed off the outflow. That's why in those photos, you're going to see dead trees in the middle of one of those shots. It's all dead trees, because that was a flooded area. And anyway, so on and on. Now it holds a lot of water, and it's a good vernal pool habitat, no fish in it. And the upper one is shallow. And and that's just wood frog. One interesting point is that the size of the wood frog polywogs in the upper pool, because of the lack of less food supply up there, they're 1/2 to 1/3 the weight of the polywogs, wood frogs in the bigger pool. It's just a food supply issue, which we found interesting because we scooped through both. And I'll show you the documentation on that. So those are going to be certified vernal pools. My client did ask me to briefly, because we're here in discussing vernal pools, he will be coming in with a notice of intent for a driveway staying on the asphalt and potentially looking at a DR, deed restriction, on everything to the right of that driveway to put in a building to the back left, staying away from these pools and some restoration in that upper right part of the parking lot that'll be restored into natural. So that, I don't want to talk much more because that's beyond what the RDA is, but they did ask me to just brief you that some NOI would be coming in. Initially, that's why we were doing the certification, was to show we have vernal pools, but where luckily this is all asphalt and we can remove some to give some habitat back, and we can do a DR and actually give up all the upper right property.
Yeah, okay.
So that, I'll be in front of you shortly with that, but hopefully wrap up again. I'll ask for a continuance one more time till your next meeting to give you the certification. That will go over to the Heritage Program, Jacob Cubble also. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Who'd like to comment on this? On the public line? And this needs a formal vote for a continuation to the June 22nd meeting.
June 22nd, thank you.
All right. Formal vote for a continuation to the June 22nd meeting.
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Wait,
Make a motion to continue public hearing on 660 Main Street, RDA vernal pool study, to June 22nd.
I second that.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Board Bishop in favor?
Ed Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor, and Eric?
Gaspar in. Yep.
Thank you for your time again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now at 68 Paradise Lane. Notice of intent to raise and rebuild of a lakefront home, DEP file number 300-1155.
so we have a written request for a continuation for this project to our June 22nd meeting. To just refresh your memory, we do have a peer review that's being conducted out there that was started late last week. And we're expecting to have the report next week on that, so we're going to continue to the June 22nd meeting.
All right, great.
Have a vote?
All in favor? Continuation?
Board Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Ted, you made that
Eric
motion.
Gaspar in favor?
You made the motion to continue,
Right,
and Roy second? Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
All right, we are now on to 10, Lot 3, 20 Fisk Hill Road.
Sorry, the regular agenda is,
Yeah,
the regular agenda, not the.
my numbers were wrong on the detailed agenda.
Oh, so we got to go to Podunk?
One more.
Podunk Road is next.
All right, so where the hell do I have that on here? Is it in
It's on the
back?
regular agenda, so it's Podunk Road, continued notice of intent, Mass DOT State Highway layout, and town property, DEP file number 300-1154.
All right,
Take it away? Take it away.
go for it.
Take it
How
away.
you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Good. So I'll do a quick recap. We had submitted a notice of intent on behalf of, my name is Heidi Graff, I'm with BSC Group. I'm representing the Massachusetts Electric Company. We had submitted a notice of intent back in February. We had our initial hearing, I believe, in March. And the original scope of the project was to conduct 4 soil borings along the unused, what I'll call an abandoned portion of Podunk Road. And that would require the removal of 59 trees from 2 to 9 inch DBH to facilitate the equipment getting in there. After that filing, National Grid has been coordinating with Mass DOT to see how they could reduce the scope of work in that area. And they've agreed upon a new scope of work, which eliminates all of the tree removals at this point. So it will just be 4 test pit locations at the original soil boring locations on the mapping. They will be hand dug, all access will be completed on foot. So the only disturbance will be temporary and it will be in those test pit locations. What that does for review under the Wetlands Protection Act, it removes the project from review under the Wetlands Protection Act. That would be a minor activity since we're not crossing any resource areas and it's just temporary test locations. So we're asking for review under the local bylaw only for the soil characterization testing. That includes the 4 test locations, 1 on town property, 3 on the Mass DOT property. After the test pits are all the test pit is reviewed, they would backfill the area and put a woodland seed mix that is approved by Mass DOT out on that disturbed area. I have submitted to Becky a revised WPA form and a revised cover letter to discuss that new scope of work. That also includes the Mass DOT permit that gives National Grid permission to do the test pits on the Mass DOT state highway layout. That's all I've got.
All right.
Any questions?
Becky, you have anything to say?
Yeah, no, we did receive that information, so, right, it wouldn't be necessary to have the review under the Wetlands Protection Act, so I think we'd just be withdrawing that portion of it, and then we just give an approval under the local bylaw for them to do that work, which is, under our bylaw, considered minor as well. Does require approval, though, so I think we should move forward with a vote under the bylaw for approval.
All right. Motion to move
I
forward.
don't have any, no comments.
What?
No comments? Or do you want to, do you
Oh.
want to?
Yeah, I would wait, because you're gonna do that with the closing of the hearing. One, we should do public comment, and then 2, they also did submit a draft concept plan
Oh,
that
all
they
right.
just wanted to get a little
Yeah.
feedback on, so maybe we should do that before we kind of move towards the vote. Does that sound good?
Okay,
So I'll
good.
just pull that up here. Who is what here?
Yeah.
So I did a little coloring on this today.
Perfect.
Just quickly with, the tools
beautiful.
on here, just because there's a lot of lines and it's hard to see and they didn't get a chance to look at it previously. So what I did, here we are, we come down the Podunk Road. I assume that this is what's the paved still section here, and then we hit here.
Sorry,
and-
could you pull that up on the
Oh, I'm sorry, I
GoToMeeting? I don't have
Too many
access to
steps in the
that file.
process here. I get forgetful towards the end of the evening, later in the evening. Thanks, Eric. All right, so wetlands are in blue, obviously. This red line here is the commission's 25-foot no-touch disturbed area. Orange is your 50-foot buffer here for no new structures. So, right, we're coming down here. I believe that's probably what's the existing paved section of Podunk Road that isn't used anymore. And then we get here, and this is where they're proposing, I believe it's a 10-foot wide access way.
So on the cross-section, I believe they have it at 16 feet. This is preliminary, so obviously there can be changes. They've designed it to one of the standard access roads that we have. So the width right now, everything on this plan can change. We're looking for input, seeing how we can work with the commission and how we can work with Mass DOT to make this project feasible and not terrible for the areas that we're working in. So they're typically a typical access path would have a 12-foot driving lane because they need to be able to get into these areas with a bucket truck and be able to put the outriggers down and have it be stable. So that's why it needs to be a 12-foot wide. That is how this plan is based. And then they would typically, when they're looking at it, I think on the cross section, it shows some clearing on either sides of those shoulders. And that can really depend on what they need to do for cut or fill, because if they're going to be cutting, they don't want to damage that root system and leave those trees, and then the trees end up dying because they've cut to do some grading but didn't take down those trees at the time. And again, since this is preliminary, forestry hasn't really evaluated it to see where we could pull in clearing on one side if that is going to be fill compared to another side that has cut. So the plan just shows it as if they were doing cut on both sides to do that clearing. The standard access is a gravel top. Things that they have discussed are, can we do a reinforced turf road so it would be vegetated after? Could that support the equipment that needs to get in there to maintain distribution lines in the long term? And then what types of gravel they could use. So those are all discussion points that the team is having, seeing how they can reduce the work in this area, even though it was historically a continuation of Podunk Road over to the other side. It has been abandoned since Route 49 went in, so it's not used today, and the forest is taking it back over. But when we were on our site visit last week, you could kind of see that clearing in the canopy of where that right-of-way used to be, the public way.
Yeah, so it's hard to see on here, but they do have a potential limit of disturbance line here. And you can see in some areas down here, this is where it'll cross over Route 49 and connect to Podunk on the other side here. There will be work clearing within wetlands. One thing I just noted when I was looking at this quickly today is I thought that there were wetland flags that connected to this corrugated metal pipe here. I thought when we went
In the
by,
fields, yeah, they connect to the wetland. At the time of the delineation, there was an identified bank, but that is definitely something that we would confirm as
Okay,
we solidify any plan to make sure, is there a bank or not?
But I thought there were wetlands on both sides of
Yes.
it too, so I think they just got to check the flagging.
Did they not have wetlands on both sides on that plan?
No, because I followed the line. I mean, unless I did something wrong here, but I was pretty sure I got the wetland flag line here. So that, I just noted that, something to look at. And then also going further up Podunk Road, there is an existing line that's there with poles, and they'd follow that same area, but there's wetlands there, and there'd be some additional clearing that would have to happen there to put the new lines in too. So there's just a little more, when this comes back in, there'll be more things that we're looking at too. So it does look like there'll be some direct wetland impacts with this project here too, so.
Well, you're saying this, what's the distance between this line and this line?
What are you talking about? The limit of work lines?
Yeah.
Limit
This
of
line
work.
and this line? Well, it's probably about,
I think there's a measurement line on that.
yeah, it's about 50 feet or so.
So that's the clearing.
Yeah.
And that's preliminary.
What?
This is just the preliminary design. So that could change as the team discusses and they're getting feedback and working with Mass DOT.
You got a turnaround here?
The trucks need a way to turn around. So there were two options that were preliminarily reviewed. There was one with a cul-de-sac and then that turnout so that they could back up and then pull forward. The cul-de-sac would be a much larger impact and kind of get even closer to the wetlands on the backside. We tried to get them to not have a turnout.
So,
And if I may, Heidi, this is Jeremy Sherman. I'm the project manager from National Grid. We will work to make that less than 50. I can assure you, it is conceptual. It is basically a right-of-way. We don't do much road building at National Grid. We have a lot of right-of-ways, as I'm sure you know, going for both our distribution and our transmission lines. So that is a pretty standard drawing. The DOT did like it. It's their land, so we went with it. But we will work to make that smaller. We did speak with some of the abutters, and that has not been reflected in this conceptual drawing yet.
I guess there's not much to say. Until we see. I guess until I see an update.
I know.
There's, I can't give you much opinion, and like most of it is Mass DOT land, but.
Right. And a lot of the potential options for the design and stormwater treatment will come out of the test pits and identifying what the soil types are below what they could see with a hand auger.
Yeah.
How, what is that accurate representation of groundwater? Are we going to have that 2 feet of clearance between a basin and groundwater? So that will inform how they can adjust design.
and if this is a current right-of-way, which I think it is, where will the poles go?
So on the plan, I believe there are two potential locations.
There's one here,
Yes,
one here, and then the other one is
it's
right
right
here.
there. Yep.
And then that'll connect, the line will go this way, and I think that's where maybe another
Exactly.
one, or there's an existing.
That's an existing pole already. So when we were on the site visit, we could see that telecommunications line. It was kind of caught up in some of the edge canopy that ends at pole, what they consider pole 76. It's a Verizon pole, so right now it's just telecommunications, but that's where the line stops there.
Right there.
So we would pick up from that line.
So you're talking, looks like you're really talking about, what, 75 feet clearing?
And again, that will be evaluated as they kind of look at the design and then have forestry's input on what grading is happening, and
We get to weigh in on that?
we can, right, Jeremy? We can bring another draft plan when we have more information.
Definitely, yes. I'm looking at the plan right now, I'm seeing 40 feet, and that's max. As far as the length, I don't know if you remember how far it is from where the people park at the end of the paved section. Maybe 75 is accurate. I don't know if you know that, Heidi. I can measure it on Google Earth right now. I don't.
Did you
know
say
that
the
off
length
top.
from the parking area to the end of the
Yeah,
park?
how far is it so like you get to 49? Like the area, so you want to do 40 by, what's the length?
It was proposed clearing for soil borings was 400 feet.
400 feet? Okay. Seems long, but okay.
I guess I would just add to, just generally looking at it, right, commission has a 25-foot no touch, 50-foot no structures, both appear that it will go into those areas. So you really have to look at our bylaw and look at what the requirements for a waiver are for a project that's really looking at all alternatives and going through that process and documenting that, as well as providing a mitigation for that for the commission to consider it. And I think what's important is to, we've talked a little bit about alternatives, to really show that you've explored that really there are no alternatives for them to consider this. And then I would just add too, thinking about this access way, and I know that for part of the town property, there's an agreement with the town about the maintenance, but going onto DOT's property, who's gonna be maintaining that road back there? Because I don't think the town, we don't maintain private road. We have a lot of private roads, and that's come up. We don't do that. So I think that you gotta make sure that you have that figured out as well for this too. Who's going to be doing the maintenance requirements out there on DOT property? If you need to plow it and maintain the road and all those good things. So just keep those in mind as you guys
absolutely.
are working on things. And then when you come back, make sure you include going up Podunk Road there, what clearing needs to be done,
Yep,
because there's
absolutely.
wetlands on the side of the road there too. So that'll be a wetland impact there too.
I mean, on the other side.
Sorry, going, what we drove down.
Right.
Yeah, yep, there's some wetlands
Going
further
towards
up.
Putnam
Yep.
Road.
And then what's happening here?
That's going to cross over 49 and connect to an existing, there's already a distribution line that has electric wires and telecom lines. So it will connect right over 49 and follow that distribution line down the other side of Podunk Road.
Okay. Questions from the audience? Drew, you have a question.
I have some, Ed.
Is that you, Eric?
Yeah, so when this project first came in front of us, I just want to make sure that I have my facts correct. This is to benefit a project that is 100% in the town of Charlton, right? So the town of Charlton and their project will benefit, and the town of Sturbridge will be taking 100% of the impact. I think I'd asked at the time to have you come back with some alternatives through the town of Charlton, just to explore that and look at that. Do I have my facts right there?
You are correct. It is for a solar site that is in Charlton. And I can have Jeremy correct me if I'm wrong on any of the facts, but because they've done an area study, and the distribution line that would run across Podunk Road and up Putnam Road to the solar site in Charlton is the feeder in the area that is the appropriate one to handle the capacity of that solar site. And there are, along with installing, getting the distribution line ready for this solar customer, there would be an extensive maintenance upgrade on the utility lines and the poles in Sturbridge. So it would be, right now it's over 100 poles that would be replaced with stronger poles, newer pole, obviously the ones that are out in the world are older, so it would be newer poles. They're going to have better storm resilience with the type of electrical line that they're going to be putting in. Instead of it being a cross arm, so like a T on top of the pole, it will be a spacer cable, so they'll be stacked on top of each other. Those are just better for if there are tree branches that fall or a tree that falls during a storm. It has more resiliency. They're also going to be installing, upgrading, I think it's 25 transformers, and installing some switching. I'm blanking on the name of equipment, Jeremy, so you can jump in. But it allows them.
Switching devices.
Switching devices. So it allows them, if there's an outage on one part of the line, they can switch it so that the rest of the customers in that section also don't go out. So you get power up quicker. And so there is a large benefit, a lot of money that would go into the town of Sturbridge to have this, this project connect in Charlton. Jeremy, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think you did a great job. It is a fair amount of work. 100 poles, like you said, 14,000 feet of overhead cable will be replaced with what we call spacer cable, so you won't need cross arms anymore. You find that cross arms rot, and we also find that cross arms allow just a little more space for the tree to fall on it. That would take out the power for your town, so you're getting a more robust system. Like Heidi said, 3 switching devices. Switching devices allow us, to sectionalize parts of the distribution line off. So if you have a big storm and one street's out, you can switch off that street and get the rest of the town going, right? 25 transformers will be replaced, so you have newer transformers, and then we'll be working with the solar customer, and that'll be to conduct a cleanup of the dumping that has occurred historically off of sort of where the paved section of Podunk Road is. There's a fair amount of shingles. I believe there are asbestos shingles. So this area will be cleaned up. It's a fair amount of work. Saw some old metal and stuff behind some of the abutters' house. Be happy to grab that. Happy to put rocks or fence off the area where people historically dump, because that is not on the section so a section already exists, and definitely put up a gate to the town's liking that would keep folks out of our access way. So it is, yes, you're correct, the solar farm is located, but being tied into the feeder, which is basically power comes through a transmission line, gets stepped down a substation, goes out to different feeders go to different towns. You're connecting to that feeder, so we have to go that way. That being said, there's significant upgrades for your town if this project goes forward.
So to me, that all sounds anecdotal. I would like to have some hard facts, the number of households, residents that will be improved here. I'll be quite blunt. Charlton has not been a friendly neighbor to the town of Sturbridge. They have done a significant amount of harm to the town of Sturbridge. So I have a significant issue with any project that has a benefit to the town of Charlton, that it has a negative impact on the town of Sturbridge. So for my vote, I'm gonna need to see what the significant positive impacts are to the residents of the town of Sturbridge in order to make any waivers here in our wetlands, because all I'm seeing right now is Sturbridge being impacted and Charlton benefiting. I realize your position, but that this is the easiest and best access point. But that still doesn't mean that it's a benefit, a net benefit, a tangible, quantifiable benefit to the town of Sturbridge and its residents.
Yep. but we are
May I
wetland
proceed? My name is
protection.
Christopher Nolan.
Wetland
I'm from
protection.
Park Corporation. We're the consultant to the solar developer. May I have permission to speak?
Use the something to the.
He was on the site, he's part of PAR, he works for the solar developer. We should quickly, though, maybe let him comment and then wrap this up, since we're only voting on the soil borings.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, speak.
Very briefly, I just wanted to talk to the committee members concerned about the benefits to the town. We've entered into an agreement with the town to provide a maintenance agreement for that portion of the road and to provide mitigation money on an annual basis for the duration of the project. We've also agreed to provide cleanup services for the extensive asbestos shingles that have been dumped since 1958 or 1960 in that area, and that have grown into mounds of environmental slop. So we've agreed to do those two things as part of this project. I think that those two things are significant benefits to the town of Sturbridge. We recognize that the town of Sturbridge has an interest in this, and we've tried to approach that. And so I submit that to the commission in further consideration of your what you're doing tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
you. Becky, you want to bring this back and close it up?
Yep, so you did go to the public for comment. I think you can work to close the hearing and vote on it.
Well,
Yeah.
Right?
Point of order, do we need to accept the withdrawal of the one first before we vote on the other, or what's the order of operations we need to do this?
I don't think it matters. I think you can accept that.
First of all, there's nobody in here that wants to speak. All right, and second of all, there's nobody online that wants to speak additionally. Okay. So,
Close the hearing?
close the hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second it.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, so now, motion to accept the
withdraw without
boring.
prejudice.
So moved. Eric Gaspar.
Yep. Any discussion on the four borings? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Yep.
thank you so much. It was nice to see you.
Well, we'll just do the vote on the Sturbridge wetland bylaw.
Oh, yeah, one more.
Approve the revised hand
Okay.
soil boring project under the Sturbridge wetland bylaw.
All right.
It'll be
With regard to the project at Podunk Road, under the Sturbridge wetland bylaws for the 3 borings, I would like to make a motion to approve the project.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
All right. Okay, got that?
Thank you so
you.
much. Have a good night.
Yeah.
All right.
all right.
Now we're on to
If you want, if you want.
Lot 3. We're taking a break here.
Yep, that's fine.
Go for it, Aaron.
How's the Heron Pond scene?
Oh, it's a nice day out there today, nice and
What?
hot.
Yeah?
But,
Any fish in there?
I haven't been down there.
No?
But I live over by Halfway Pond.
Halfway Pond, yeah.
So,
Jeez, you know what Cooper Pond is?
no.
You know what Boot Pond is?
Oh, yeah, Boot Pond.
Heel, it's right at the heel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Little pond.
Yep.
A lot of time in there when I was a kid. was nothing on Epwood Pond.
It's a lot different now with,
Yeah.
I haven't seen or heard anything about Red Brook development, but that's just, they're building 1 million homes over there.
Oh, are they putting in red?
Yeah, Makepeace, where the
Makepeace,
old
yeah.
bogs were.
Yeah. Well, the Fish and Wildlife has been building Red Brook for a long time. I imagine it's going quickly.
Amen.
How you doing? Not too bad.
Ready to go?
Yeah, Carson's ready to go.
Carson's ready to go? All right. Lot 3, 25th Hill Road and 30 Main Street, a future road named Berry Farm. NOI, construction of a 68-lot manufactured housing community, DEP file number 300-1156. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Good evening. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC Environmental. I guess I'd like to start just walking through the revisions that we conceptually showed you at the April meeting, and then some subsequent revisions we made after that meeting in response to the comments made, and just kind of go over those updates.
Okay.
And then after that, we do have John
Oh, yes,
Shevlin on here, who was our engineer peer review. We asked him to come on in case you had any questions, so maybe right after we do that, we can jump right to that, so then, you know, John can get off if we don't need him.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Let me put up the,
Yep, I can pull up the site plan. I
Yeah.
don't have a network connection, so I have a thumb drive and I loaded up the full set of
Oh,
plans,
okay.
so I can put those up. Can we just do like an overview sheet, or?
Yeah, like the last sheet, the open space plan is a pretty good overall
Okay.
view. Thanks.
I know it's a little slow with these plans, so we'll
Yeah,
close
there's
these
a
things
lot of 'em.
out. Is it before the detail plans?
No, it's the very last.
Last
yeah,
one?
yeah. Yeah, thanks. All right, excellent. So as we conceptually talked at the April meeting, we had made some revisions, primarily in 2 locations.
Can you share that,
Yeah,
please?
sorry.
And can you maybe drive with your cursor so I can see where Brian's pointing?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good to go?
Good to go.
All right, thanks.
Following your lead here.
So we had eliminated this lot right here, lot 56, and then reconfigured lot 57 to eliminate any permanent disturbance within the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone to the northerly A-series vernal pool. The rain gardens were reconfigured, so they're upgrading of the 200-foot buffer. There is some side regrading that we're proposing to revegetate and naturalize within the 200-foot buffer, but we are allowing that to naturalize and return to a fully vegetated state. The other area, we made some revisions to lots 20 and 21 off of that cul-de-sac, and to minimize the disturbance within the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone to the E-series vernal pool that minimally extends onto the project site and continues off-site to the south. We also had a relocation of a outfall for this rain garden right here that we directed more to the north to increase the separation away from the vernal pool, this A-series, southerly A-series vernal pool. That outfall, the way with water, it doesn't actually reach the vernal pool. It actually, based on topography, goes more in this direction, a northwesterly direction. We had talked about at the April meeting, we added another tree to be planted per lot. That's a total of 134 trees to be planted. And then based on some of the comments we received at the April meeting, we made some further revisions. We minimized some disturbances in the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. We reconfigured lot 70 to be completely outside of the 200-foot buffer zone.
Where is
And
that?
Lot 70 is right there, right?
Yep.
Yep. And then we had also on 4 lots that were partially,
The house is still there right now, right?
yeah, the house is still there, but it's been pulled outside the 200-foot vernal pool buffer.
So this plan isn't up to date.
It is. Probably at this scale.
It's tough to see at
it's
this
tough to
scale.
see.
The 200-foot buffer was more towards the back of that lot and just intersected the back quarter of that building. So we were able to shift it close
So you
enough to the
moved the
road
house
to
a
pull
little
it out.
Yeah, we moved it outside the 200-foot. And on 4 lots, we removed them. They were partially within the 100-foot vernal pool buffer zone. We relocated those outside of the 100-foot, and those are lots 53, 55, 64, and 65. Yeah, I knew you were gonna
Those
ask.
are on cul-de-sac Road B. We pulled them out of the 100-foot wetland buffer.
Yeah, so I think it was these ones.
Yep.
Yep.
Brian, were the backs of these lots in the open space last time? Ones? I just don't remember.
I think a portion of it, we provide some clarity or some reconfiguration based on the updated regrading. You notice based on some prior comments that we received, we're not including the back slopes of those stormwater basins. I think that was a staff recommendation. But any areas that we are just naturally revegetating, we are proposing to restore those and include those in the open space within the DR. So cumulatively, the revisions amount to, there's only one lot, one house within the 100-foot buffer zone to BVW. And there's
Where is that?
that's unit 54, that's right here. There are only 5 lots or houses within the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. Those are 20, 21, these 2 right here. 65, which is right here. 66. Oh, wait, no, sorry, 65 and 66 right here. And this is 69, which is, this is the only lot that's entirely, the house that's entirely within the 200-foot. All those other ones are partials, kind of corners of where it rounds out.
In the stormwater structure?
Yeah, yeah, we provided previously those calcs as a cumulative alteration, a permanent alteration of 4/10 of an acre within the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. But from a structural standpoint, there's a total of 5,140 square feet within the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. And again, that's spread across 5 houses, 4 of which there are partial encroachments and 1 is fully within.
1,240?
140.
140.
How many square feet is each lot?
7,500 square feet.
2,500.
So we feel that is a,
How many square feet of disturbance is there within the 200 feet?
the vernal pool buffer.
Just plain old disturbance of any kind,
You mean the 200-foot buffer zone or
within the
200-foot
200-foot buffer zone?
of a wetland?
The vernal
Yeah.
pool.
Yep.
Yep, yeah.
Here, I'll pass this around.
Thank you.
But that's the table that we previously had submitted, that 17,490 square feet is what I mentioned was the 4/10 of an acre, which is the permanent alteration. The total alteration is that 29,670 square feet. And if I was better at math, I could tell you exactly what that is, but I'll do a quick calc right now.
Is that what you were looking for, Ed?
Yeah,
As the
that's what I'm
vernal
looking
pool
for.
buffer zone?
Yep.
Okay, so make sure.
So that's 0.68 is cumulative. We're proposing to restore, revegetate a little bit more than 2/10 of that acre. So the permanent loss or alteration within the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone is 0.4 acres across the 41-acre site. You know,
So how would you revegetate, where would you revegetate?
so on the backside of some of these slopes, we are proposing to reseed those with a seed mix that contains a mix of herbaceous ground cover and shrubs species to accelerate revegetation succession. Trees will be allowed to grow on some of the back slopes away from some of the stormwater basins, and the areas will be left to naturalize. So those are the areas that we're talking about there. And again, this is the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone, so it only clips a portion of that. Sorry, it goes up a little bit more, sorry.
I'm just wondering, you removed some houses, why not remove all of them to have a clean sheet?
Well, that would be nice. You know, project economics can only balance so many house lots that we've lost, and Justin can speak more to that. But we've reduced or eliminated 4 lots since the original submission. We've made a slew of revisions on a number of lots, and I'll just provide the summary. This is kind of just something I put together that just summarizes all the revisions that we made, the mitigation measures we proposed to address staff comments and commissioner feedback. You know, it's stuff we've talked about, you know, ad nauseum.
Eric?
I'm sending it to Eric, yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks. But I just wanted to pass that around just for a refresher of everyone's memory here. You know, some of this stuff we've talked about way in the past, but just to bring it full circle and have a full summary, it just highlights the revisions we made to date. You know, I think where we're at right now comparatively in relation to the 2 residential projects that Becky had provided as, you know, representative projects that had been permitted in the vernal pool buffer zone, and the Panera project, you know, we feel that cumulatively and percentage-wise, we're far less disturbance than those projects.
You want me to answer that again? Reasonable use. Let's take Panera, okay? When there was a building there before the Vernal Pool Act was in place. Okay, it was fairly close.
Hotel, yeah.
It was a large hotel, and they tore it down and put in a new hotel, and we protected the vernal pool to the extent that was reasonable. Okay, you guys are clean slating us here with 137 acres of untouched land, right? Okay, so reasonable use, applicants are requested to demonstrate that there are, you know, no practical alternatives to proposals. So, no practical alternatives. So go ahead on, but I mean, but there's no reason why you shouldn't move out of the 200-foot buffer zone completely, clean slate yourself, and put the project in on the land. If you do go and Another thing that you're doing that we've never done before is let somebody clear cut an area. So you're going in and you're bulldozing and you're making like aircraft carrier tops that you can put houses in, right? That's the way that you're operating. And it's all downhill to our vernal pools. So we have to protect them to the maximum that we can. So to say, we did something with Panera where we kept them out 100 feet and then the hill slopes down the other way and there's a Panera. I grant you that that's not 200 feet, it's 100 feet. But the point is, it's reasonable use. And you guys are not looking for reasonable use. You're looking for carte blanche, do what you want. And I appreciate the things that you've done, but there is no way that going in there and taking out 29 acres, in my opinion, and clear cutting it above the vernal pools, and then going in and shaping the land for the houses around them, and having some of them actually be in the buffer zone, it's not going to work. You're not going to protect our vernal pools.
So just a few things on that, just want to clarify. So going back to the 134 acres, that keeps getting thrown around. We have to remember a couple of things. We can only operate in the rural residential zone. And then we have already committed to the 80 acres of protected space. So when you bring all that down, it actually reduces that whole amount down to about 34 acres that you can actually work.
This is still in progress. We're not committing to anything that, it's an in progress. Matt's name is still on.
I understand that, but
and you have a purchase and sale agreement.
Yep.
All right? So this is in progress, and we want to do it right while it's in progress.
And I understand that, and we do too, but the 134 acres saying that we have 134 acres to work with it's not true, because the zoning's not there. And then, again, we've already committed to protecting 80 acres of that land. In my eyes, that's gone, we can't touch that. If you wanted us to move into some of that 80 acres, that changes, I think that would be worse for the project. So it gets us down to roughly between lots 3 and 4, 30 to 34 working acres within the rural residential zone. Also the 29 acres of clear cut, it's our whole project of disturbance is about 15 to 17 acres. So it's 10 to 12 acres less than the 29 acres. I just want to set the record straight on that, because I want to make sure the correct numbers are out
It's
there.
a phase build out. It's not a clear cut of the entire footprint and then scratch.
Okay, well, I'm just responding to what you're saying, and 200 feet, everything we've got tells us we can protect the vernal pool with that 200 feet. We've got, coming out of our ears, we've got, that we have the right to protect that vernal pool to the extent of 200 feet, or more if necessary, and that's never been tested.
I mean, if we compare it to those residential projects like the Shepherd Lane project?
Shepherd Road, yeah.
Shepherd Road. I think that one.
How many houses was it?
It was one house. And
One house.
It was allowed.
Come on,
0.1.
stop.
Can you
Don't bring me that anymore.
Can you let me finish my point, please? Thank you. So on that project, based on reasonable alternatives, there was no other option but to allow for some level of alteration in the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone that amounted to 0.15 acres on one 5-acre lot. If we compare that against our 5 houses on a lot-by-lot basis, we're half that percentage of disturbance within the 200-foot.
We're not talking about percentages, we're talking about survival of the vernal pools.
And I think greater than 11 acres of open space protection is going to ensure the survivability of the pools, plus all the mitigation measures.
The closer you out of the vernal pools, the more damage you're going to do.
Well, when you compare it to...
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
I completely disagree with the comment of we're not talking about percentages. We're talking about 3.6% according to what I'm seeing there. It's a rounding error, in my opinion. I I don't, I get that you and I are probably going to be on opposite sides of this, Ed. That's fine. But, 3.6%, 3.6%, it's a rounding error. That's all I want to comment on your comment about percentages don't matter.
Fine.
Are you done doing the summary?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
turn over to Shevin unless you want.
Two quick things. One, Ted, you had asked a question back in April, I think kind of got lost in the shuffle of, do the residents have the right to be able to alter their land, their homes and whatnot? Answer is no, that they don't, without our approval first. So I just wanted to make sure we answered that question for you. I've said it in the past, but just to reiterate, that's one of the reasons that we look at this type of project, manufactured housing community, as a better project for protecting the wetlands and the resource areas. We control everything that goes on with the land. You don't have 67, 68, whatever the number ends up being, homeowners up there trying to clear land, cut trees, anything like that. They need our approval first. And if somebody were to go do something without our approval, within our rules and lease that we have with each applicant, we have the right to go back and mitigate, take care of the issue that they caused, and we can actually charge them for any costs associated with that. So there are real teeth within our documents to allow us to protect the land around the homes and around the wetlands.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if we,
Economics of moving out these 4 houses, more concretely.
I don't want to use, again, the word affordable, going back to Ted's comment from a while ago. Affordable is different for everybody, but with a manufactured housing community, compared to a stick-built home, single-family condo, whatever it is, they are more affordable than a traditional subdivision. But with any subdivision, as you start to remove lots, the cost of building goes up. Simple economics of that.
So concretely,
We lose an additional 5 lots, it's going to change that dynamic in the economics of the project to a level where we're uncomfortable that it's going to meet the need of the housing that's needed in the town right now. with
so
the 55
what are we
homes.
concretely talking about? I mean, in terms of housing prices, I mean, roughly.
If I had to put a number on it, you could be looking at $25,000 to $30,000 more. Which is a big difference for a lot of people.
I think it's also just, from these kinds of projects, the financing people look at the recurring revenue long-term, so it's not so much the spreading out of the cost of a road.
Oh, you also
It's the
charge rent,
long-term revenue that's associated with the plan, so.
And we understand that the commission, is concerned about precedent setting. We want to set the bar so high that, no one's going to be coming in on our coattails, so.
Well, that I think would meet Ed's definition, right?
Precedent, I'm not interested in precedent setting. The past has set the precedents in my mind.
So this would be the new precedent. Don't you want a new precedent in
No,
town
I
to be
want to
able
go,
to protect the
I want
wetlands and the vernal
to,
pools
I want to
more?
use the town bylaw that we have in its fullest. Because we have that town bylaw for a reason, and the residents voted that town bylaw in, and and the project reeks of a project that needs the protection for the vernal pools. If you've seen what Matt's got going on the entry road up there,
Yep.
it's like a colossal, the dynamiting, and I can only imagine when you guys get going what it's going to look like.
We talked about that, I think, at the last meeting. One of the benefits of this type of project is 2 things. Again, to reiterate, our forced main sewer lines. So we're not going 10, 15, potentially 20 feet in the ground to put in our infrastructure, to put in our utilities, where 5 feet is the deepest we're going with our water lines.
Right.
And then, because we're on pads, we're not blasting for 8 feet, 9 feet for foundations. So there will be, we know that there is rock up there, as we've talked about in the past, and there is some blasting that will need to be done. But this type of project minimizes that to the greatest extent possible.
Do we have any questions for
Yeah.
John Shevelin? I think he's probably caller 4 on here. He was. John, are you still on here?
Yeah, I'm still on, Becky. I lost the connection with my internet, but I can hear you.
No problem. Anyone have any questions for him?
Well, what's his opinion on the changes that have been made to the plan? It's that simple. From April.
Yeah, I mean, just reviewing the plan as far as, the removal of some of the units and the relocation. They have gone ahead and pulled some of them out of the buffer areas, as discussed. We looked at the stormwater component of it. One thing that wasn't mentioned as far as the stormwater, which was an issue last time, was test pits being done with the rain gardens. That was done at all the rain gardens, and the information that came back was similar to what they had in the previous one. Actually, some of them had deeper, more depth to it. And just based on the stormwater analysis that was performed and the information that was provided for the modeling analysis, we believe the stormwater works. So, really, as far as the issue goes, as far as the stormwater design and, taking care of the water quality and recharging and everything else, I think they've accommodated that. As far as layout, they have accomplished some of what you're looking for as far as getting out of the buffer, and now it comes down to in regards to what you guys are discussing now.
Anybody else? Oh, Eric, you're on mute.
Yeah, just to confirm, John, just for the neighbors that were concerned about this project creating more stormwater runoff into their backyards than before, based on your assessment, it hasn't changed, that this is not going to perform any worse based on your calculations. In fact, it might be a little bit better.
Yeah, Eric, that's correct. Yes, that's correct. Based on the analysis they did for the different design storms, there is a reduction in regards to the amount of runoff. And I think we mentioned the last meeting, it's actually the state law that you can't go ahead and do a development that's going to increase stormwater to a budding property. And they accomplished that, where they have gone ahead and they implemented different techniques in regards to going and reducing the overall volumes.
Thank you, John.
And just to clarify, the design is for certain storm events. So if there's larger storm events that don't get modeled for correctly, that could be different. But the state only requires that it's modeled for certain size storm events, right?
Yeah, it exceeds.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So bigger
What level
storms-
is that? What were they modeled to?
It's a state required storm.
The 20-year or the 10-year?
We heard 20.
John, do you remember offhand? For the stormwater?
Yeah, and they went ahead and they, even went beyond that. They did design and do calculations for a 100-year storm. So.
We've exceeded the design requirements on this project.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Anybody else, anything for John? Thank you, John.
Welcome.
I just have one.
I'll hang on in case anything else comes up.
I just have one comment talking about those other projects. The one difference for those projects is that the wetland line and the vernal pool line were the same there, right? So that our regular 200-foot buffer zone was the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone there too. Here, these vernal pools are set back in the wetland. So our 200-foot buffer zone does extend much further out into the project. There is a lot of disturbance in that exterior area, but what we're looking at is that vernal pool line within that wetland where they can breed in. Yeah. So there is more wetland that's outside of there. When you look at the 200-foot buffer zone in comparison to 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone, there is a lot of work in that area. So I think that is a difference between those other projects that I think is just important to point out.
Yeah, I saw that in your comments.
But it was never discussed. I was a little confused by that comment because at previous meetings, we've always discussed the 100-foot wetland buffer and the 200-foot vernal pool buffer. So
yeah, the 200-foot
I'm
vernal
confused
pool.
why the 200-foot wetland buffer is now coming up as a discussion point at this point in the game.
Well, it's always a discussion point. They have jurisdiction within 200 feet of the wetland.
Well, I
What
understand that.
the vernal pool buffer zone says is that the vernal pool buffer has a 100-foot no disturb, and then a 200-foot buffer zone, which they can extend the no disturb to.
I understand all that, I was
No, I
a
think
little
that-
surprised to see the 200-foot wetland buffer now being referenced when we've had conversations in the past, and I know Ed, when I asked a couple meetings ago, what buffer zones are we talking about? It was specifically the 200-foot vernal pool and the 100-foot wetland buffer.
For the no disturb.
Right.
That's what we've been focused on.
Mm.
I'd agree with that. So, you know, I think you guys have, I wasn't here when this whole thing started. I've seen, said, a lot of these applications before under different circumstances in a different state. But typically you get a lot of gives. You know, your road construction is 25% less costs up front than it is in a traditional subdivision, right? So that saves you money. And you're actually saving money by your methodology that you talked about in terms of how you're burying water lines only 5 feet deep versus 10, 20, whatever else they might be. So that's all wins for the subdivision. The fire department gave you another win. They're giving you access through another neighboring town. So you didn't have to come up with a second, entrance for fire. So you get another win there. And, you're kind of looking to get another win here from the board on this vernal pool buffer issue. So based on everything I understand, we've never applied it before, or it was previously applied, this protection of this area, under nothing real similar in terms of circumstances to me. A single lot subdivision or single lot home compared to this is quite a bit different, in my opinion. Then at the same time, the town, we're always measured, all towns are measured in New England on affordable housing and housing stock and variances of housing stock, and this isn't something that we have a lot of. And, I'm not an abutting neighbor, but it is in an area that, from where I see, fits actually fairly well in terms of our town, because it's close to Southbridge, which has a tremendous amount of high-density housing, where Sturbridge has a lot less of that. I think it's kind of foolish that the town is dumping, let me restate that. I think that since the town's population is committed to spending $12 million on elderly, or senior center, and these communities are put in these gardens and places to, I guess, use for a party or something. My experience is they're hardly ever used. And when does that get built in your time frame?
Phase 3.
Phase 3?
Yep.
Okay, so you're looking at 3 to 6
4
years
is
down
what our
the road
estimates are.
anyways. So it's unfortunate, we're here, and, it'd been nice to, I would have helped to try to get a variance from that requirement, because there you could move a couple of these lots that, the board would like to see you not put in the buffer zone. And then you got the ongoing monitoring of wetlands. That stuff's kind of still new to me, but it seems to me that so long as you're building, we're going to need some kind of plan that is going to monitor the impact of the water quality, within the wetlands and the vernal pools. So let's, I understand economics, I'm in business, and I understand how these things are financed and so forth. But at the same time, we have an obligation, this board does, really, to protect waterways and wetlands. So I can't tell you how everyone's gonna go on this, where you're really gonna fall without maybe making those final alterations. I just.
Well, where do we go from here? We've got issues that we have unresolved. You want to close the public hearing and have a vote?
Roy, I know 2 meetings ago that you had expressed some concern. I mean, have we?
I don't
have
want.
any questions,
We're
or
not
have we met?
interested in a quiz from you on individual votes.
No, we've heard from.
We haven't heard anything from Roy yet, and he did express some concerns at the April meeting.
Thank you. It's more for Becky, though, and Aaron. So there's a couple of plans in here, the stormwater management, the habitat, the reduced salt, vernal pool monitoring plan. Is there any enforcement, any reclama, clawback, or is it just,
Walk on by.
I mean, is there any, does the town have any ability to go in there and go, yeah, it's not working?
You mean
Have they done it?
after
in the
they've completed the
past?
project?
Yeah, so the
To
project's
use-
completed.
It rounds up to 0.36%. Has it? No, the answer is no.
Okay, thanks.
Well, there would be, if I understand your question,
They sign
obviously,
off on
you're relying on us to be truthful as far as we're going to do the reduced salt application. We've committed through the vernal pool monitoring process. Brian will do yearly reports, and he'll do water quality, and that'll be given to the board every year. And if there is a question on any of those reports, we will come back in front of the board and say, okay, what's going on? How do we figure this out? How do we work with the board to take care of any potential issues?
Yeah, and whether that results in remediation efforts, a change in O&M practices, I think yearly check-in with the commission would be appropriate to review our results and stay ahead of any issues that could be perceived and work collaboratively to address anything.
Well, we've got a situation coming off of the same hill on the other side, which runs down across what used to be Rom's Restaurant and goes down and floods Blueberry Lane every time there's a good solid storm. And all of the, nobody takes credit for it, but it has happened with good engineering all the way through. Every time they put something in, they engineered it, and it met all the engineering standards, and we have a problem where an area of our town is flooded because the hill is impervious. The hill you're working on is impervious.
It's not, though.
Wow.
It's all been reviewed, and the soils have been reviewed by, and designed by engineers, reviewed by John Shevlin. One thing Brian didn't touch upon, but I was able to get a hold of the UNH Stormwater Center. I don't know if you reviewed that letter in there, but I
did.
had the head of the department review it. He reviewed the entire stormwater management report done by Pete, and that letter confirms that, as far as the stormwater and permeability and all of that is concerned, that this project will work. And I specifically, asked him to address your concerns about being built on a hillside and
Right,
potentially the soil
I
not
saw it
being
in the
impervious.
wordage that he presented. He's never been on the site though, right?
He looks at all of the information that's given to him,
Okay,
and that comes from a licensed engineer.
right.
There was a plan that had the last time or the time before, I wasn't here last time, but you had the different colors. You had the red, the yellow, the purple, the orange.
Oh,
We
that
had
was the
The
buffer zone.
delineation.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
just my coloring of the buffer zones.
That's good, but is there a way to map it to the,
On here, in a specific area?
with the revised plan? I mean, the illustration of the improvements.
I have to print it and do it.
I mean, well, in this version of Adobe I have here, the only thing I can use for edit tool is a highlighter, but I could go in and highlight if you wanted me to do that right now, something to see.
Yeah,
for
you don't have to do it
discussion.
now, but it would be nice to see.
I think we're at a point where we should continue it or close it.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
All right, continue it and come back with a colored version if you want to see it.
Well, it's a,
Yeah,
no,
no.
yeah.
So I guess the question
I
is,
don't, I mean, for me, I don't think that the design here has changed so significantly that the colored plan that Roy is asking to see is not fairly representative, where an intelligent person can use the changes that have made here to extrapolate out kind of what is going on.
That's you.
We captured that.
Well,
We repeated on
I'm just
Instagram.
fair to everybody here, and, you know, I mean, and it seems to me what the ask is fairly reasonable from Roy.
Right.
So I guess if we did ask for a vote, because I'm only going by what I've seen with other applications in town. Typically, there's an order of conditions that the board votes on. So if we did ask for a vote tonight, how does that whole order of conditions get drafted? Because we would, assuming it was a positive vote,
Yeah.
would like to have some input on that. I know Brian and Becky had talked about that in the past.
Well, that's up to the board. Typically, you know,
Yeah.
we would state the conditions, they would state some, we could draft it, bring it back afterwards with the final details of it. If they wanted you to participate in that, you can. But if they voted and they voted to include a condition, say they said, I want 8 years monitoring, you know, and they vote on that, that's what will be in the order.
Right.
If you don't like it, then you need to appeal the order, whatever the condition is, right? That's how it would work.
Could we have as an order of condition to remove 5 houses?
No, you can't do that. You're approving their plan, so, but, you know, that's why I kind of said in here to, you know, think about what those
Conditions
bullet
would be.
point conditions would be, so that way if you did vote, you could have those. And then what we've done in the past too, is if you vote and you say what the conditions are, they're bulleted conditions, you can vote, you can close it, it can bring it back, and you can do your final approval of that language at that time.
I think we would like the opportunity to provide some conditions. You can take them or leave them or modify them, whatever, but maybe give them your,
This
make
would
it a little
work
bit
only
easier.
if we approve of it.
No, but I think that's.
Personally, with
I
a
actually,
project this size, this complex, I would like to see the orders of conditions laid out as opposed to us just talking through them offhand.
Yeah.
That's
agree,
just,
yeah.
I mean, I personally would like to, given how complex this is and how long this is drawn out and how complicated this has been, I would like to see it, the I's dotted, the T's crossed with that, so we can vote on a complete slate. I think it would be in everybody's best interest to have that line item out.
For an order of conditions.
Well, I'd ask for the members to maybe provide some input on that for me too,
Oh,
of
yeah.
what they might be looking
I have
for.
some
Not as a group thing, but individually, so that way I can compile those. So that way it can be addressing people's concerns
can
when
even-
drafting that.
you can even share them and so they know where they're going.
So the board can provide some
We can individually
recommendations to
provide,
Becky, and then Becky and Brian
And then
can
we'll bring
kind
it
of
to a
work
vote at
together,
the
and then
next
we can
meeting.
bring it to a vote.
And we'll mark, we'll color, Eric's gonna color up
No, I'll do it. I'll have the colored plan for the next time. I'll take this one right here and I'll.
You can ask us.
But so you don't want to think about removing some houses?
We will go back and we will think about it, and can take another relook at it to say that 100% certain, this is it, you know, this is where we feel that we have gone as far as we can go. You know, we have come very far, and we just ask that you come and meet us a little in the middle.
Ted said you had already a few wins with the town of Sturbridge.
Roy, did we take care of your?
Yeah, I would like to take our own stab at the coloring
Okay.
and a different look at this. This is the vernal pool, but let's look at all the
200
the
foot buffer?
wetlands, the wetlands, the vernal pool, everything, and lay that out in a chart that we can sit down and the percentages are interesting, but yeah, I really want to understand, you know, where we sit with regard to the specific disturbance in the third
Complete buffer
rails.
zone.
Yeah, the third rails for the wetlands and the vernal pool. And if we're stepping on that third rail, I want to know where.
And
Approve a continuation. I'm going to shut it down now.
Well, I have a written public comment. I know it was in your packet,
Oh,
but I
okay.
just wanted to just read it real
Read it.
quickly because I need to. So this is from John.
I'll interrupt
Sevilla.
this, too.
70 Crestwood Drive. He says, "Good evening. I apologize for not being able to be here tonight. I've faithfully been to most of the meetings regarding Lot 320 Fisk Hill Road and 30 Main Street, Berry Farm Road. Yet this evening I'm away at a very important conference for veterans in the Commonwealth of Mass. I was at the May 11th meeting prepared to speak, and although there was a quorum to conduct business, the applicant chose not to open the public hearing, was taken aback by finding out 2 of the committee members were not present. Not sure why the applicant didn't want to conduct the public hearing when a quorum of the committee was present. Here's my official statement to the committee. An excerpt from the Town of Sturbridge bylaws, section 5, 365-56E. The commission shall take into account indirect effects, including but not limited to effects of nearby human activities on a case-by-case basis. Is the impact on the vernal pools worth the project's scope? Another excerpt from the town bylaws 365-5.8. Wildlife studies have shown that direct impacts from work, filling, grading, vegetation removal, construction of barriers to movement, etc., in resource areas can severely harm wildlife populations. We all know that indirect impacts and the effects of human activities near wildlife habitat can have harmful effects. This decision shouldn't be about economic development and financial commitments. It is about the indirect and direct effects to the vernal pools. At the April 20th meeting, Mr. Gaspar said during a hearing that the committee is here as the stewards of the land. I urge all of you to be the stewards of the land. I don't know if there's any other public comment
Yeah, see if there
before you
are.
move forward here. No.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All in
Do we have to
favor of a
vote?
continuation?
We have to make a motion?
make a motion.
22nd?
22nd?
June 22nd, yep, next meeting.
I'll make a motion to continue Lot 320 Fisk Hill Road and 30 Main Street, Berry Farm Road, continuation of a 68-lot manufactured housing community DEP file number 31156 to June 22nd.
I'll second it.
Discussion, all in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Winglass in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gasper in favor.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
All right, thanks so much, everyone.
Careful driving home.
I will have to sign
Nice.
in the middle of the night from Amsterdam.
Hi, guys.
We are at,
Hanging out?
I didn't know you guys partied so late.
Oh, we're just beginning, you know. We're on number 89 tonight here, so.
okay,
A couple more things.
Yeah.
is this Podunk now?
No, we're done with the public hearings.
Okay.
We went through the wetland decisions, administrative decisions, we didn't, have time, we didn't have time to get the minutes ready to get them out to you in advance, so I think what we're gonna have to do is they're gonna be one behind the meeting, because right after the meeting, we gotta get permits out and all the new applications come in, so it's hard to get the minutes done while prepping for the next meeting and closing out the last meeting, so they'll be on the next one. Next, we have old business. So we have the violation discussions. We don't have anyone, the property owners, here for either one of them, so I'd like to talk about 71 Mashpog Road first.
Go ahead.
So we've been talking about that for quite some time now. I did give you at the last meeting, we tabled the discussion to look at some enforcement recommendations. I did give you, I didn't write the whole thing, I just gave you the recommended orders that I worked with town council on. So I gave those to you attached to that last email. I can just read them quickly if you'd like me to. And what we're talking about here as a reminder is that, you know, there was a operating junkyard at this property. They either stopped operating or they stopped operating in a portion of the property. They did a big cleanup on the property because they were required to because of a contamination issue. The property owner started to clear out all the cars out of there. They then sold the property to someone new. There was some time that went by, probably about 7 or 8 years, where there was a back portion of this property and all along the perennial stream that they pulled all the cars out and they stopped using. You can see on the maps that the gravel driveway, roadways back there are still there. Vegetation grew back, trees, shrubs, herbaceous stuff. A new property owner bought it. went in, cleared all that, and started using those areas again. And now, as we saw too through time, there's more cars that are coming in by the stream, all within, riverfront area there. So we started looking into that. They provided some documentation. They had sent a letter. They didn't think that, there was any jurisdictional activities out there because there was a, junkyard out there since the 1950s. They did provide some permits. They had permits from the Board of Selectmen from 2007 to 2000 to the current. I didn't go through them completely. I noticed 1 year was missing when I looked through there. But regardless of having that permitting, its alteration of the site is what is jurisdictional under the State Act. So that doesn't mean they don't have to file with conservation when they want to go in and alter the property. So, working with town council, I talked to DEP about it. It was recommended to move forward with an enforcement order on this. So what I wrote here, within 30 days, submit a restoration plan with current wetland delineations showing removal of all vehicles, equipment, and materials from areas within jurisdictional buffer zones and/or jurisdictional resource areas. Conservation Commission will review and approve a timeframe for completion of the work required by the restoration plan. The only thing I would add to that is that we should say for the areas where operations, it was noted within the aerial photos of those years that they stopped doing that. If you remember, CMG gave us those plans. Because there's areas by the thing where if they continued use, then that, might not be jurisdictional for us. So I think we got to be specific about that a little bit. Within 30 days, allow the Conservation Commission and staff the right to inspect the property. And then following satisfactory completion of the restoration plan, the property owner can apply for future uses of the areas in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act and Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw. That wouldn't be an order, but that would be in there. So they could come back and they can file and meet performance standards and ask for activities out there.
All right?
I-
Okay, let's,
I'm fine
any
with
input
it.
on that?
No, I think we should do it.
I have a question since I did this workshop.
Oh, no.
Which was interesting. So, they said it must be within 2 years of violation to have the enforcement.
This is a continuing violation because it's fill within jurisdictional areas.
But we found out within the last 2 years.
Yes, we found out within the past 2 years, yes. Yep, it's
Because
from when we
otherwise there's
found out,
a
yep.
Statute of limitation. And did we order a notice of violation before?
We did issue letters. I think that I did call it a notice of violation, yeah.
I think they said you should mention them all in.
Yes, yeah. Well, I have to write a whole narrative when I do this, and I have to outline all the correspondence I've had with them. I did just issue the other one for 23 Old Harrison. I should give you a copy of it so you can see, but right, you have to outline all your findings and all of your interactions to date. So I have to do all that.
Okay. Motion to approve moving forward.
Well,
with
can I
enforcement
ask a
order.
question first? So, Beck, they did provide ongoing permits from, essentially, Kerr Boy went out of business in 2006. So they have continuing permits from 2007 on?
They have, what they sent was 2007 on. I went through them quickly. There wasn't 2008. They had different, I didn't go through and print out and separate them out. There's class 2 and class 3 licenses. So I don't know if they had both each year for each activity or not. I didn't dig that deep into it, but they do have some.
Well, I think it makes a difference, at least to me, right? It seems as if I think we need to tighten up what those permits say, what they do, and what I get your point that there could be alterations, but we're going on a fishing expedition if those permits are in place versus if those permits aren't in place, there's actionable reason for us to be on that site. So at least from my seat. So I think that we have to tighten up the conversation around those permits to verify whether or not those are ongoing activities dating back to the Kerr Boy days that are continuous before we take any steps further. Because to me, I can't, in good conscience, vote for a fishing expedition. I think we need to have a genuine, verifiable reason to.
I talked to town council about it, Eric. It doesn't. It's regardless if they have the permits. They would there was an area they used, they stopped using it, it grew back, it was jurisdictional, they bulldozed it, they took all the vegetation out, they altered it, and they're continuing to use it, and that's still within resource area. So I had that conversation with town council, it's, the permits don't matter in this situation. It could matter for where the areas like near their garage, where they always had cars and always used, that we might not be able to tell them anything in that area. It's specific to those areas that they outlined within their plans that show that
yeah,
they
we
stopped
should-
using them.
What proof do we have that they went in and bulldozed, though, right? We're just going based off of the aerial photos that have shading of different colors, right? There's vegetation, it could be
Yeah.
grass, the whole thing makes me uncomfortable without a paperwork trail. So, I can't vote for enforcement order without the proper documentation.
Hello, Scott McCarthy, 22 South Road, a butter again. I watched it happen. I watched them bulldoze it. I watched them cut down the trees. I know what happened. So if you need me as an eyewitness, all the trees were there. They were all there when I bought my property and when I moved in, and then I watched them bulldoze it all. So that's what happened.
Okay.
Can we have Alex get an affidavit on that?
Can we do this way? Can we issue an enforcement order and at the same time do what Eric is asking, that we go into the paperwork and find out what the chain of usage is there, see how consistent it is, see what we're looking at.
Couldn't we ask our
We can always
TA's
stop the
office to
enforcement order if we
provide
have.
that?
What?
Couldn't we ask our own TA's office to provide that? I mean, it's their permit,
Well, we
right?
could-
I spoke to Gary Magnuson today from CMG. They're still trying to dig out records. Some of these they got from the town. They're still looking for records. So, and they've asked the town, he said he's gonna come back to the town and ask for more records, so.
Didn't they have a rep, did they have an engineering rep?
It,
Yeah, CMG.
yeah, they have CMG Environmental that was working on their DEP cleanup, and they did bring in a wetland scientist from Ecotech that went out and did the flagging out there and sent that letter in.
So we're voting here on whether we send an enforcement order or not. Can we go ahead and do that?
I'll make the motion to send an enforcement letter.
Second.
Discussion, Eric? I think Eric's
None.
point is good. I think that we need to get buttoned up on the paperwork, whatever we can find. And if it means using some other employees in town, that'd be great.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Eric Gaspar opposed.
Okay. All right, so now we're on to 110 Brookfield Road.
Yep, so this was, again, discussed at the last meeting, and we tabled it. Thank you, have a good night.
Party's over.
Thank you.
You got a business card?
I'm sorry?
Have you got a business card?
I do in my truck.
I'd like to get a hold of one if,
I can get it to you.
okay, good.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Have a good night.
You're welcome. So, same thing, number 14 on here, we have 110 Brookfield Road. Came to the last meeting, he said has no intention of filing a notice of intent, and left. So, the discussion was tabled at the last meeting.
yeah. So we need to file an enforcement order. Any discussion?
Yeah, he left us no option, really, so I'd like to make a motion that we file an enforcement order.
I'll second it.
Do you want me to read just those orders real quick? Because we're
Yeah, go ahead,
gonna
read
come
it.
back. So immediately install erosion controls between the wetland and the site on the subject property. Provide documentation to the Conservation Commission that's been performed. Allow you guys to go out and do a site visit to inspect that. Within 30 days, submit a restoration plan with current wetland delineations showing removal of all asphalt grindings, millings, vehicles, equipment, materials, and earth and stockpiles from areas outside of what is shown as existing pavement edge on the Levesque plan. I didn't add the date on here, but that we had that existing condition plan from July, and then we had the new one that was done. Measures shall be implemented to stabilize these areas to prevent erosion. And notify us upon completion. And then, similar to 71 Mashpog, there would be a sentence in there that following satisfactory completion of the restoration plan, the property owner can apply for future uses of areas in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act and the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw. I don't know if there's anything else to add.
Does this include the shed that he,
Yeah, I can write
because that was, I think.
structures. Equipment, yeah,
I think
equipment.
that equipment would cover that.
No,
It's too bad. We were right there, I thought, with the guy in
Make it
2 meetings
structures.
ago, so, whatever.
Right, so it's pretty much, you're telling them to bring it back to where the edge of pavement was before and remove the materials outside of that based off that plan.
Right. All right, do I have a motion on?
You had a motion and a
Already had a
second.
motion.
Second.
We just need a
Zero
vote.
discussion.
Discussion, so now vote.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Edwin Glass in favor.
Carsten Stüber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Eric?
Eric Aswell in favor.
All right.
Can you ask town council about because if we want to give a fine according to this one lawyer, we have to rephrase the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yeah, well, we looked at this before, Karsten. What Karsten's talking about is the way the fines are set up. We can issue up to a $300 fine for a violation a day. But the way the town has it set up is you have to issue a letter of warning. Second violation is a $25, 50, 100, and we can only do 100 a day, up to 300 per violation.
but the phrasing up to, or
Yeah.
not more than, supposedly the courts don't like that. They want to,
Get rid of
Charge.
up to.
want to have one number. It's
Yeah.
like in parking ticket.
Yeah.
So it seems the lawyers, and maybe ask town council, because the lawyer was quite clear that they threw out all of the ticket,
Anything that leaves for discretionary,
Yeah.
that's why I don't like the mays and mayors, can-dos, shall or will. So Carson makes a good point. It's the same thing, actually, maybe, we used to hold different meetings to discuss stuff like this, administrative things, but also on this bond, Was 5,000 come up, was it 10,000?
Yeah, right.
Well, let me
Talk
just
about
say,
a project that should be bonded
Since I've worked
is,
here, we just implemented the bond, and, we had our first, completion of a project by a builder. He came, got his certificate of compliance, got the bond back. It's a very good system. It's working.
I used to bond projects all the time from a planning board side, so
Yeah.
just saying that since this is, it sounds like this is new.
It is newer.
New for conservation here in Sturbridge, that instead of it being an arbitrary amount, like you're saying, oh, well, you could lower it, well, we should have a schedule so that people know what they're going to face when they file an application, and they're not surprised that, oh, they have to bond something until it's completed, you heard the one guy say, is that new? So, the word will get around,
Yeah.
but I think to be fair, and like you're saying, so you don't get challenged on, why am I
Yeah,
being
you gotta
charged
get-
this? You put out a schedule.
Wording is critical.
Is there any way for these type of enforcements is there a mechanism of action between the town and the state, or the town and the county, or the town and the federal government to get folks with more available assets, to get them engaged in different levels of enforcement? Like the EPA, I'm going to go nuclear. Can we pick up the bat phone and call the EPA?
I only have one experience with EPA on a project that we had a major violation on, and they didn't do anything, unfortunately.
How about the state?
The state will get involved. They will only potentially get involved with a project after an enforcement order is issued, because that's really when the legal part starts on that. And it depends on the project and the impacts, when they get involved too. So they really, with the one big project
And what
issue-
triggers that? What is the mechanism of, is it the board jumping up and down?
call for help.
What's
Yeah,
the,
you
what's the
can ask-
threshold?
You can ask them. I think
Yeah.
it matters on the violation and.
Okay,
the
but what's
ability
that threshold?
I don't know that there's a certain threshold.
Typically, legal stuff with towns, my experience is you have town council that are either hopefully experts in land use, and that's what we have, conservation, or not exactly sure how our legal team works for Sturbridge, probably bigger than my former. But, you know, we're going to them first to say, okay, we can send that letter because they believe there's a violation. So the way I look at that, Ed, as a board, is they've given us a green light to go ahead, and they're saying that they can defend that position for the town. And the town has a legal line item in the budget to deal with these kinds of things, and
Right, so what I'm saying is, you know, is it a letter from Ed to the town, or Ed to somewhere in the state to get them engaged? Do you want to
Well-
do that, or do we tend to like to?
DEP likes us to first
Is it the
proceed
agent?
this way. And then if we need assistance, we can ask for that, but they prefer that we
Exhaust all?
exhaust these
Okay.
options first, and if it becomes
The
an issue.
magnitude of, well, take these two that we have. We got a parking lot squabble that if he was a reasonable man, we could have just done it, and it would be over with, right?
right, that's what I'm surprised. I
Yeah,
saw that
so-
when
so
I was
that's-
like,
So that's one end of it, but the car recycling business up there, whatever you want to call it, may be a totally different animal, and if we can get some water quality tests out of some of the
Yeah.
houses around there, they've already had problems.
they had to have.
What?
They've had to have.
Yeah.
I mean, that-
So that's,
probably from 40 years ago, more
Right,
than
yeah,
today. but,
absolutely, yeah.
You know,
so,
I mean, separate from the enforcement order, I mean, you can still fine. The fining is under the local bylaw only, and we have done that simultaneously with a couple enforcement orders in the past. It is complicated because of the way the fine structure is set up.
very tedious. They make it tedious intentionally.
Oh.
It works, though. Actually, the fact that people are getting fines, or you're fining them, they don't,
But the fines are separate.
the fine, we've had guys clean out filled wetlands and put it all back together again, and then come begging for not to have to pay a fine afterwards, you know, I mean, but they went right at it, so it's
oh,
messy.
they can work, bonds can work, there's good tools out there.
All right, so did we vote on and agree?
Yes, you did.
We
Okay.
did.
Did.
Okay.
Okay.
But I definitely think it's worth looking into the fine thing. It would result in a change to the town bylaw about fines. That's what we got at before, yeah.
Yeah, because, and that has to go through town meeting.
Town meeting, yep, it'd have to get brought up to town meeting.
I don't know what the number, the reasonable number is in terms of this definite number.
We have some rules too, like we can't fine more than the selectmen can fine, or some other damn thing.
Yeah, I think $300 is the limit per
Yeah.
violation per day.
But I think if all towns just give $100, Sturbridge should have $300, right?
We can 300.
See, just committee update, CPA, I'm meeting on Monday. I haven't met in a while. I don't know if there's
Monday,
any-
town meeting day?
What?
Town meeting?
What's the date of the town meeting?
June 5th, Monday.
Yeah.
I think I am meeting. We sometimes meet before, because
Oh, like
if
in
there are any problems with the money,
Got it.
We got a few things, so can't leave yet, Roy.
I'll pass out
CPA is what?
correspondence while you.
Oh, and pass these
Talk
out
about it.
Community
too.
Preservation Act.
I'm gonna
Okay.
get distracted though. Any other committee updates?
Don't ask me any more acronyms, I don't know any of them.
Got some mail.
Well, what's that?
Mail.
For what?
Well, there's two things there, so we'll wait on the mail there for a second. Just quickly, just so you know, there's a water ban already in effect in town. That started today or yesterday. Still working through the Long Pond boundary dispute. The surveyor that we did hire did confirm that what the last 3 people said was accurate. But we need to wrap that up because I also need to start a new, under ARPA funds, we need to start a new whole property survey plan done. So I got to follow up with our town administrator on that so we can wrap that up. The alum treatment, East Brookfield never issued our orders of conditions. I had to write those today for them. They're not drafting anyone's orders of conditions, we found out yesterday. So I had to write that. We were supposed to start our project on Monday. That is now on hold, which is fine. You know, the consultant at the Lake Association really wanted it to happen now before the busy season out on the lake, but there's no other issues. We just got to work with Solitude, who's the contractor, on when they can reschedule that because they have a pretty busy schedule. So just wanted to make you aware of that. That's not the commission's project. That's the Board of Selectmen's project, but Aaron and I are administering that grant and that running that $500,000 project. So I do have, all right, since you're looking at that, we did get, Eric, we'll get you yours. We did get an anonymous complaint that was mailed in about a couple properties in town. I'm starting to look into that and draft letters. I am familiar with one of the properties. They did file for a building permit for that, and that did get filtered through our office, through our permitting software. Where these people are saying wetlands, I did not see that there were any wetlands in there. So I said the project doesn't appear to be within jurisdiction because based off the aerial photos and GIS, there's no wetlands over there. So I got to look into that, but I did sign off on that when they did file for a building permit. I will send letters out on those.
How did he get these photos?
It looks like a drone.
Drone.
Someone flew a drone over someone's property.
How much
yeah.
did this guy pay for?
I don't know. It's like $10 to send that mailing. So
Come
yeah.
on, this is $10 for
We got one,
priority meals for 5 people.
We got one as well in the Board of Selectmen.
Wow,
Yeah.
and his own drone. That's amazing.
Just so you guys know, it's not a big deal, but DEP is now allowing people to file RDAs online, and that means we can upload our determinations online too. So I was thinking of the certified mail. It saves us some certified mail. Well, no, because we wouldn't have to mail the DEP certified, but they're making some slow but steady progress in their permitting software.
I think we should get a drone.
The police have one, yeah, yeah.
I think we should.
I have a request from Matt Sosick about his current road construction over here. That project has been ongoing for some time, and there was some delays, and they stopped working for a while, so they stopped doing their reporting. I contacted them because I noticed that work started again. They need to do, per our order of conditions, weekly environmental monitoring. I don't think it was anticipated by them that this project would be going on so long. They're asking if they can go to bi-weekly monitoring. A lot of all the tree clearing work, rough grading, they're getting all their infrastructure in the roadway done right now. I went out last week with Andrea Kendall from LEC, who's doing the monitoring. At this time, for what they're doing, I think it's fine to go to bi-weekly monitoring out there. I just had asked him too when, to work with LEC because they do need to get the wetland replication work done out there. I was asked why he has to do that, and I did inform him that it's in his permit and we can't go back and change anything now, and he has to do it. But once they start doing that work and some of the more drainage work with the rain garden, I think it should go back to potentially weekly. So I think for the work they're doing right now, I think a bi-weekly is okay. It's up to the board if you would like, you're okay with that though.
Bi-weekly's fine with me. Anybody else have an opinion?
Fine with me.
Yeah, based off what they're doing, I think that's
Eric,
fine.
you on board with that?
Works for me.
All right.
No concerns.
All right, what else do I have here? The other paper you have, Eric, I sent this to you the other day. We talked to you a while back when we were working on the budget, I think in November, and told you about our plan, how we were working to change, where's my copy? Oh, did you save me a copy?
I gave out the ones you handed
Oh,
me.
I think I gave my copy out, but that's all right. I don't
Want mine?
No, I have a lot of paper here. I might find it.
Yeah.
Oh, because, yeah, no, you already had one. Right, so we were looking at, asking for some, administrative support and an assistant agent position to help with, kind of spreading out the workload here. There's a lot more work that's required of someone who can go out in my position and do the field work and permitting and all that stuff, and then we have administrative work too. We weren't given that, but what I went to the town administrator, they are doing what they're calling a pool clerk. That will be a full-time administrative person for this building and will help across the street, that can help with some of our basic administrative tasks, et cetera. What I'd like to do, and what the town is agreeing to do right now, is to change the current administrative assistant position to an assistant agent. So that way, we're going to help get rid of that bottleneck a little bit and distribute that workload out a little bit. And help compensate for some of the work that's actually being done by Erin already too. So I went to the personnel committee. It was graded a little lower than what I thought. I thought it was very similar to the field inspector and board of health, a little different, but they changed the grade. We have that done. It's scheduled to go on the Board of Selectmen meeting on June 20th, which is a couple days before your meeting, to be approved. At that time, too, we have to do, for the newer members, we have to do a wetland fund vote every year before the fiscal year change. For the past, 10, 12 years, the commission, whenever we get a state fee in, when people file under the state, we get a portion of that fee. It goes into a revolving fund. It can't go into the town's general fund. It goes into this fund. We can use it for administrative purposes and enforcement of...
Buying coffee.
Yeah, of the Wetlands Protection Act. So, we have been using a portion of that fund to help fund the administrative assistant position. So the budget was already done for this year, and we were allotted a certain amount of money out of the general fund for this position. So this year's vote, we're going to be asking to take out, it's been usually historically 5 hours that we take out. However, we have done more in the past. But we'll be taking out the 5 hours at the new pay, and then we'll have to compensate the difference from what they already budgeted for the current pay to the new pay. That amount would be $12,056.20 to compensate for that salary gap and those hours. Next year, I would just remember, this is still a part-time position. I would like to ask next year to bring this up to 35 hours a week. We do have some extra money they give us for meetings, but we weren't allowed to bring it up to full-time before. So I would like to ask next year to make it full-time and then kind of distribute that funding a little bit differently, maybe moving forward with our wetland fund and the general fund.
You lost me there.
Sorry.
So that last piece, who do you want to recommend to be full-time? This Aaron?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're only going to have
Not
one.
the
There's only gonna be
shared
two of us.
pool.
You just tell me how I have to vote.
Okay. Yeah, the shared pool will be under the town administrator
Yes, vote.
to help out the different
And
departments.
they tag our budget for our percentage of hours that you use them for, or no?
We don't know how it's gonna work yet.
Yeah, we don't know how it's
It's a
going to
new,
work
it's
out
a
yet.
new,
So this is a new position they want to create.
Yeah, yeah. We're hoping that some of the more basic administrative tasks can get shifted over, maybe a certain amount of hours a week. We have to see how that will work out with some of the other departments that have asked for help too.
What fund's that, revolving fund?
It's the Wetland Protection Fund.
Okay, and
Yeah.
where does that money come from?
That money comes from when someone files a notice of intent with the state or a notice of resource area delineation.
We get a piece of the action.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we get half.
plus $12.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. We get a little bit more than the
You're in
state
it.
gets.
Who, does the treasurer manage that fund?
Yeah, we deposit it into a fund with the town accountant. They oversee it all. Yeah, yeah. And right now, I don't know exactly what we have at this moment, but we've had,
$88,000.
yeah, between $80,000 and $90,000. It's closer to 90 right now. Yeah.
Looks nice.
Huh? Yeah.
So, that's what Aaron wants to do, is go get salamander eggs out of
That'd be nice. Some more of that, less of legal stuff would be nice.
Oh, yeah.
that's only gonna get worse.
All right, is that it?
Well, you need to vote on that. Yeah.
Everybody, they're all nodding their heads.
You gotta officially vote on
All in
it.
favor?
Okay, the motion is to appropriate that amount of money at the bottom from the Wetlands Protection Act.
12, was it
Correction
12,000?
Protection Fund.
Fund
To,
fiscal year 20.
for fiscal year 24, for funding of the
Staff salary.
staff salaries.
I'll make a motion to allocate $12,056.20 from the Wetlands Protection Revolving Fund for the purposes of funding the fiscal 2024 salary increase and position change for the town,
What's your
the
title?
assistant to an assistant.
Assistant to assistant.
Assistant agent.
Assistant
To
to
an
assistant,
agent.
too.
That's the word I was looking for.
I second that.
Okay.
Kind of summarized.
See, I can do that with you, but she's.
Second?
All in, yep,
Roy Bishop in favor?
all in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Goodman's in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Eric, where are you?
Make a motion to close the meeting,
Oh, he's
public.
Yep. Second?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Eric, where are you? Eric?
I'm right here.
Second the motion to adjourn.
Yeah, Roy Bishop in
And
favor.
I'm
What's
Ted
Gertie.
Winglass in
Yes,
favor.
I agree.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
We'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Okay.
You in favor?